Computer, you get
Yep.
a notification.
Yeah.
Cool. So, guys, I'm super excited today. Welcome back to the UKIHUNT podcast. I'm with my buddy Joe. On Instagram, it's going to be Rest and Refit Outdoors. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So I had to hit record. We're already getting on some good subjects. So, uh, really, just kick it off. Usually I want to do everybody's backstory. I want to do their history of bow hunting, and just hunting in general, the culture of it. But we kind of already we are already on this topic, so might as well. So shot efficacy. I guess that's how you'd say it, and comfortability at what yardage, and somebody we both watch, and I would say definitely look up to in the hunting industry. I mean, he is just a straight killer. He's putting down animals left and right all over the dang world from continent to continent. Um, what about that? What's your thoughts on that 141-yard bow shot on the ostrich, dude? I think that was just watching that arrow flight the first time I seen the clip on his story. I seen it and it was like, dude, it just looked. I was like, how is that arrow even gonna get there? And it
Yeah.
just, dude, it did. It dropped right in it, and the ostrich took like 3 steps and piled up,
Yeah. It did like a little like loop and then just dropped.
dropped right there, and I was like, well, all right, you
I
know,
mean, that's the thing, man. I think the shot, like the ethical shots
yeah,
are gonna be different for everybody, right? Um, just because it's everyone has their own um capabilities with their equipment. This is like and when I say that, I mean it for like I don't rifle hunt anymore, but like rifle hunters too, there's guys that couldn't shoot that won't shoot past 200 yards because I think it's not ethical to take a long range shot.
I'm
My
not one
best
of those guys when I was
my
rifle
best friend is a
hunting.
shooter. Like the
Yeah.
dude can shoot, and I think his elk was like he dropped his elk with one shot at like 300 or 400 yards, free handed on a mountain. Like, and that was like his capability. He knows, and I think a lot of it's understanding your capability and not being overconfident. Because once
Right.
you're overconfident, that's when you start to wound shit. That's when you think you're better than what you are, and you start to be the guy that gut shots every deer, um, or misses consistently in a row. All those different things. So, I mean, for me
Yeah.
personally, like Josh Bomar, like everyone knows he can shoot. We've all watched the Instagram videos of him shooting and saying, "I'm going to put this arrow between the eyes of my Sasquatch," and then he does it. I think it just comes down to like that personal capability and
Yeah.
understanding, you know, also where to hit the animal.
I mean, he's gotten a lot of flack over the years. And I mean, dude,
He he, he always will.
anybody who talks about him or said they've talked to him in person, they say that he's like actually a really genuine guy. I mean, I get it. He is in the entertainment industry. I mean, ultimately, I know he has a bunch of other business venues, and I'm not really going to speak on him like I know him for, from, Larry or Adam, but from what I see looking in, he's successful, he's dedicated, he's driven,
Yeah.
he's built multiple brands, and he's just, I mean, crushing it. Family man, he's a straight killer. Um, and I mean, I'm assuming he probably shoots his bow multiple times a day.
Oh
He,
yeah,
he
yeah.
practices at yards that most people can't even shoot that far because they don't have it at their range or at their house.
Or maybe even like at tack, they probably would like walk
That's a
away from that
Yeah, or
shot.
that's the
It's like
farthest they've shot is when they're at tack.
yeah,
Because their sight is up to, let's say they shoot out to 60 at their house or at their local range or whatever, and they finally get to a shot. First shot on the Jack Links course was like 70 some change straight downhill.
yeah,
And that might be their farthest shot they've taken. And they realize, oh, my sight goes to it. Let's dial. They dial it to the exact yards, and they're able to hold and anchor and take as long as they need. They break the shot, and they realize, oh, it actually goes in. I mean,
right.
nothing's going to recreate the pressure of having an actual live animal on the other end of where your arrow is going to get. It don't matter how much lifting you do, how much you try to elevate your heart rate. It's like a drip that your brain releases when you have even a doe that comes in. You just get fired up, and I don't think you can really recreate that with exercise or some type of just elevated heart rate, running. I believe running and lifting before you shoot definitely gets you um, more apt to like the realistic situation. because you are going to be out of
Yeah.
breath potentially. You are just going to come up the crest of a hill, you're side hilling up, or you're chasing on a herd, or you're putting a stock into an animal where you basically feel like you have to hold your breath because every little sound that you make, you're like, oh my gosh,
Is he gonna
no,
hear me?
yeah, but nothing's gonna, I don't think. I mean, I just, I haven't been able to find it that really just, when you
That's
go to
pure
pull back
adrenaline.
and your hand is just like, you
Yeah,
know,
it's the pure adrenaline hitting your
yeah,
body. And I
yeah,
think like, there's certain things, at least in my life, that I've experienced that definitely I could say, yep, that definitely feels, what it feels like to be
yeah.
near a deer, but like just different life experiences. And like you said, like it's hard to recreate that while you're shooting, you know?
I get fired up when a doe walks in or a cowhorn spike. I mean, I'm not shaky about the fall out of my dang stand or platform like on buck if I receive them deer off Buckmasters, but at the end of the day, like I still get excited. It's rewarding for me, and I'm
Yeah.
glad I'll never lose that because I've been on many hunts. I've chased many animals. I've been to many states, and it's the same feeling no matter what it is, even if it's not your animal you're targeting. Maybe you have like a coyote or a fox come in, and you're not really targeting them. Maybe you don't have a tag for them, and you're just kind of you just get excited. You get that drip, that's what I call it, and it's just like immediate, dude. And
Yeah.
it's like you're cool, you're calm, collected. You might be a little cold, you might be a little hot, and out of nowhere, it's just like immediate, goes straight down you, and you're like, all right,
I
yeah,
think I
it's
think it's
fired up.
it's like it's funny like you said like it doesn't matter what animal. I
No,
remember I think it was last year I was hunting. We put a stand up kind of by like at the edge of our property because we get a bunch of deer that cross the road from, or no, it was 2 years ago,
yeah,
and they crossed the road and it's just like we had a scrape in there, all this stuff. I was like, I'm gonna sit here because I'm gonna catch whatever deer, buck's walking through. I caught a bobcat sneaking up on me,
mm-hmm. Were you in the
but
stand?
yeah, I was in the
Yeah,
stand
yeah.
and I'm sitting here because I have swamp behind me and nothing goes through the swamp quietly. I don't care if it's a bobcat or if it was a goddamn frog.
Mm-mm.
Everything comes
No.
through that swamp loud. So I'm sitting here. I'm like, I can't. I was like, is that a deer? I was like, but I can't turn because it's right behind me. And like you get locked into that hunting instinct that okay, I got to stop
Yep,
moving. Like it's serious. Like I
yep,
don't know what this is, or you see something, and you're just like, well, I don't want to ruin the moment and spook it because then it might spook if there's something
yep.
else around. So it's like I got to. So you go into that. You go into that immediate hunting state. You're just like, okay, I'm the predator now. I gotta be. I can't move. I can't get busted. And I think that's what like helps with that adrenaline, like why you can get it on, like how you said, like doesn't matter what you see, like you get
No.
excited, right? And it's like because the second it starts coming in, you're just like, okay, boom, you're the tree, or you're the bush. So I think it's a
Brush
lot of
pile,
it's
yeah.
that you hit
One with
that,
nature.
yeah, I am nature. You
Yep,
hit that
yep.
spot of like you go into that instinct. You're just like, okay, like fine focus, fine tune. I gotta be paying attention to see what it's doing. I think that's a big thing that like that bleeds into it. It's like
Absolutely agree.
you don't want to spook it. Like when I was in Nebraska last year, I was walking up this fence line on this hill trying to get to a spot to start glassing, and
Yeah.
I heard an antelope snort. They were just snorting at each other, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "What is?" I was like, "That sounds like Call of the Wild," because I played Call of the Wild all the time and
Yep.
the hunting game. And I was like, "What is that?" So I stopped real quick and I was like, "Where is it at?" And I started looking on the grass, and then I also I see it pop up, and that got me pretty excited just because I was like, I've never seen an antelope in the real life before, so that's cool.
Yeah, it's dude, I think the craziest sounds I've heard would be oh, antelope. I didn't hear the antelope too bad when I went antelope hunting. The bears, they make like a weird. Have you ever seen bush dragons from Cam Haines? They make
Yeah,
some crazy noises, and it's like
yeah, dude.
it's
I
not normal. You've never heard it before. You
It
wouldn't.
makes you nervous. It definitely makes you nervous, especially when you're in Crocs.
Yeah, yeah. No, so I'm up north in the UP and crazy here. I'm up north in the UP and no bow or no gun, no sidearm. I got my bow with me. I'm not too worried about the wolves. And that's all the real predators we kind of have up there. Other than that's it. I mean, it's all we have, and bears, of course. But I have bears coming in. They're on camera. They're making crazy noises. And then when they came in, same thing, just snapping their jaws, doing this little
Yeah,
rumble and like rumble and like it's
the bark.
it's very hard. Yeah, I personally didn't think I've never heard that before, and it just blew my mind. And then, of course,
Yeah.
I had a wolf come in, and that thing didn't make a peep. Definitely more scared of humans than anything. As soon as he kind of seen or figured out I was there because I was moving to kind of get him off, I would have stayed more still if it was any other animal, but I wanted to let him know, hey, I was there. Don't call your freaking friends in and ruin the whole hunt. But he got out of there pretty quick, and it was uh, that was a fun time. The rain kind of ruined that hunt for me though. Over those days, it rained every single day, and anybody knows if you're bear hunting, bears don't really like to. I think it messes with their sense too much. Their eyesight's really good. A lot of people say it's not, but it is really good. But their nose is what they go off of, and I think the rain really kind of messes with that, and they don't.
Yeah.
And also, they might not like to get wet. I don't know. That's
I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I hate it too. It's September. It's cold. It's getting colder up there, and then it's just like a wet, cloudy, like muggy day. You're not really drying up. Nothing's drying out. And once that rain kind of sets in, like at the end of September, it's pretty much there until it turns to. You might get one,
To snow.
yeah. I mean, you might get one day, maybe two, where it gets like in the 60s randomly, but then the next day it'll be down again. So it's kind of
Yeah. Yeah, my buddy drew a tag. Um, so I moved back to Michigan in 2021.
Mhm.
He drew a tag that year for Lower Peninsula bear. So when I moved back in October, I
Mhm.
was like, all right, cool, dude. Like, I'll help. I was helping his dad run bait sites because he was working. So I was running bait sites with him and his dad.
Yeah.
And the last day we went out, we had this bear on camera, and we knew which bear it was because every time it would turn away from us, it had a white patch on its nutsack. So that's how we knew. That's how we pictured that bear because he would turn his ass towards the camera while I was eating on the bait site.
I'm sorry, it's so funny, dude.
Dude, it was in. So we went up there.
That's
His dad and
hilarious.
I went up there, threw some bait out, and we had a daylight photo of him. We're like,
Yeah.
you guys got to be up here. So we went back, and my buddy and I hauled ass up there the next day, checked the camera while we were in the tree stand, and he had daylighted that morning. We're like,
Mm.
okay, cool. We weren't able to make it out in the morning, so we're like, all right, cool. He'll come back in the night. And so this is where I hunted bears and crocs. So we're 2.5, 3 hours away from our house, left our boots in the driveway as we were packing stuff up.
It happened.
So
I left my bow case, dude. Real quick, pre-finish that. So I have the soft V3X case that comes. Most of the
yep,
flagship bows will come with like a soft case. It'll come with the other bows. Most of the dealers can order them that comes with it. It's just like a simple case, maybe like $150. You know the soft cases, right?
yeah, yep.
I got the V3X one. Dude, I swear, I'm packing up for Colorado, and that soft case has to go on top, and that's why I went to the SKB because then I can just pack it how I want to pack it. But
Yeah.
bow case always has to go on top, obvious reasons. It's a soft case; it doesn't really do that much for it. And I left on top of the Forerunner, dude, and I'm pulling out of the cul-de-sac, and like something told me to like look to make sure the bow wasn't going to slide because I didn't want it to knock. Had a long drive, and I probably get I'm on the street and I like look, I don't see it, and I'm like, what? I'm like, well, where did I leave it? And I hop out and it's like on top because on the back, when you open, I sat on top, and then I opened up my hatch and it kind of pushed it towards my rack. I'm like
Oh,
loading
okay,
up the
yeah.
car, dude, and I already laid the seats down. I mean, I have 10 or 11 days. It was 12-day hunt or 12-day trip, 10 days of hunting, um, or 14 days, 10 days of hunting, 2 days there, 2 days back. So I had the yard sale with me. I'm talking Target. I'm talking 4 coolers, 3 coolers, um, I mean, I'd rather bring it than not have it and have to go buy what I already have.
Right.
Too, I have two of everything for a reason, for either backup or buddy use. So I've always gotten the excuse. Well, I don't have it. Well, I'm like, well, what size boots do you wear? Because I got 11s and I got 12s. I know you're probably going to fit in one of those, and if you don't, I got some
Right.
thin socks and I got some thick socks.
Thick
So
socks. Figure it
yeah,
out.
yeah, you'll loosen them up. I think you'll squeeze for one day, and then I got extra packs, clothes, everything. But yeah, that was almost a bad. Uh, I know that
Yeah.
feeling. That was almost bad, and I've left my fluid head for my tree arm filming multiple times at the house. I get set up. I'm in a tree. I'm ready. I'm pulling out all my gear, pulling out my my tree arm. I set it up, and I'm looking for this fluid head. My camera can't hang up to, so I'm like, well, I guess I'm shooting off a GoPro today, and that just looks GoPros shoot great, dude, but it's like when you have a deer at like 15 yards, it looks like 50 yards away.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
that's like the hard thing with GoPros. Like I'm trying to figure out how I want to film this year, and it's like my buddy just bought a GoPro 12 and he filmed all last weekend on it, and I was just like, man, like I don't know if I want to use a GoPro or if I want to get an actual camera. Like I know actual cameras are kind of a pain in the butt to film with, like just seeing you attack and stuff, and it was kind of a pain. But it's
probably
like,
the worst camera to try to self film with. That's like that's a mirrorless 4K like that. To zoom in, it's a pain. It's not. It's definitely a pain. But it's cost effective. But back to what you're saying. You want to?
yeah. So I'm trying to just now figure out how I want to do it if I'm going to film this year.
Yeah.
I keep saying I'm going to start filming, but where I'm at now with my page versus where I like what I was trying to do like a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really worried about it, you know. I so this year we did the bow giveaway, the bow fundraiser,
Yeah.
um, with the nonprofit that I work with. We did that with a veteran here in Michigan. He was actually a buddy of mine who I served with and stuff, and then we reconnected through work. And he's never been hunting before, so I was like, "Well, dude, I'm gonna get you out in the stand, blah blah. Like, I'll get you out in the woods and we'll kill a deer together." So, like, for that purpose, I want to film because, like, I feel like if I could, and it's all memory based, but man, if I had my first hunt filmed, my first deer ever shot filmed, like that was just an emotional roller coaster in that stand that day with my stepdad. And it's just like, so for me, I want to be able to give him that to where he can watch that over and over and over again. And I think you and I have talked about it before. It's just like, I love having the memories. I love having all of like being able to go, oh, hey, this is my Colorado overland trip with my best friend. Yeah, it's on YouTube. Go watch it. Or being able to say, oh, this is my Nebraska hunt. Here's my first mule deer I ever shot, and be able to record that and have it for, I don't know if I'll ever have kids or not, so I really don't care about that point. But if I were to have a family, it'd be cool to be able to sit down and be like, oh yeah, this is when your dad started hunting, or like when my niece and my nephews get older. It's like, oh yeah, this is, you know, here's my hunt with your dad or whatever.
Dude, and the grip and grins are amazing. I have a bunch of standard, I think 4x6s is what they are, just a standard prints. I have some Polaroids too, just me being super young, like 6, 7, 8, going with my dad, and then me shooting deer whenever I first year I could, ducks too, turkey, geese, and everything. And it just, the memories are hazy about the small details, but I do remember the major aspects of those trips, and that'd be, the potential tornadoes that came through, tornadoes that did come through, the 3 inches of ice we're breaking through with the John boat trying to get to the duck hole, stuff like that. And of course, I remember the harvest and the successes of that and how all that played out. But when you're filming, me and my buddy Dakota talked about it, and that's the guy who just went with my axis hunt. It's everything leading up. It's the long drives there. It's the little jokes that get said when you're half delirious. It's the little things that you encounter when you're when you're on these trips. And it's absolutely, I mean, they're just hitting me like a wave right now, and it's so rewarding that you can actually capture those and potentially get some laughs and get some reactions from other people when they're not personally there to experience that with you, because you
Yeah.
can't take everybody hunting, and
No, you can't.
complete strangers too, and I mean, I could show all my best friends this, and they might appreciate it, they might not, whatever, but complete strangers, more or less, you usually get the best kick out of it, because personalities and differences are kind of all out the window, whether it's political, whether it's if you're a rifle hunter, crossbow hunter, bow hunter, it doesn't matter. You're kind of either, oh, I enjoy the content, regardless of his personal views or his personal vices, and it's enjoyable. And dude, like, it's I would say definitely get a camera and start self filming. It's going to be a pain in the ass. You're already bow hunting, so your odds of
Yeah, it's all
harvesting is low, and everything's going to be stacked against you. But when you can pull it off, it's so freaking rewarding, dude.
so
You get good at it too. And people, man, they say it's impossible to bow hunt and self film. You can. You just got to be, everything is, it's like a game of chess down to like, it's life or death chess. I mean, it's down to the every little movement you do and every little decision you make, you want to play one or two hands ahead. And that's what I try to explain to people. And it's so freaking rewarding, dude.
so I'm gonna try something out when I go to TAC in Snow River.
Yeah.
So I bought the Everly Stock Team Elk Pack,
Yep.
and
You
it's
told
got
me.
a rifle scabbard. Well, I don't rifle hunt, and I can't shove a bow and arrow in there. I
No.
wouldn't do that anyways. So what I'm gonna do, I told my buddy, I was like, hey, I was like, why don't you bring your bigger camera? We'll put it on the tripod. We'll leave it on the tripod, and we'll just shove it in my rifle scabbard. I was like, because
Mhm.
then it's in a pretty tight. I have my Mountain House mules in there right now, just because I
Yeah.
was like, well, might as well put the Mountain House mules down in there because that way it gives that that's storage. It's an easy place for me to get to it if I need to, and it's also nice because like if I need to shed like a layer, like when we were at TAC, I can shed a layer real quick and just shove it in the rifle scabbard, and I don't have to worry about it.
No, you don't know.
But I'm like, we'll put the camera on the tripod, and then we'll just put the camera in the scabbard, and then if I need to grab it, I should be able to just reach over my head and just pull it up. And like now I'm thinking, I'm like, if I were to get a camera, put it in there, like say Nebraska, and I'm on a scout, if I have that shoved down deep enough, it'd be almost like an over the shoulder film. I
Yep.
could just have it, have it there
And
while I'm
that's
walking
what you
around
want.
and stuff.
If you have a
Versus,
GoPro, do not put it on your head because as soon as you put it on your head, unless it's kicked off to the side, you go
yeah, you're
back your bow,
you
dude,
can't
and
see it
it's
on the bow.
right
You
on
got
the
the limbs
riser.
right there.
It's
Yeah,
right on the riser, dude. And it's like I've done that mistake so many times. It's so convenient. You have the head mount,
yeah,
like boom, boom, you get the perfect
yep,
angle, and you go to draw back, and it's like right there on the riser, and you're
right,
just
yeah. It's like now all you get to read is Matthew's Lift, which don't get me wrong,
yeah.
it's a beautiful thing to it's a good thing to read, but
We'll get on to that. We'll get on to that. I'm jealous. So yeah, so I would say get a handy camera. Anybody listening, let's just say you haven't gotten to filming at all. You're green completely. The technology we have to capture film is so freaking versatile and so readily available. Stick to the main brands, Panasonic, Sony. Um, there's a few other ones. They all usually have
Canon's a good one.
Canon, yeah, those three brands for sure. And then for like a main camera, you have 4K mirrorless that will fit in the palm of your hand. For the most part, you've seen mine that shoots
Yep.
4K. It shoots great footage. You can get really good or not limbs, but lenses for it, and you can shoot all the way up to 200. And then all the way down to 12, for good self filming. Most of the screens have a swivel so you can see yourself filming when you're vlogging, let's say driving to the spot or doing a recap, which is really beneficial. And then the handy cams, everything shoots like 4K, like minimum now.
Yeah,
Unless you
nowadays
do
everything's just basically at
four and
that
six.
4K.
And if
Yeah.
only I'll tell this to anybody, do it, 6K cameras if they're in your budget. Just understand you're not just budgeting the camera, you're also budgeting a
The
software
lenses.
to be able to handle that, and then also a system to be able to edit that.
Yep.
Most of the computers nowadays are to run you 2 grand plus for a system that can actually handle 6K. Anything less than that, just run 4K. It will handle it. You can get like a 2021 and up MacBook that will handle that, 4K. It won't be the fastest, but it will do it. It will definitely handle it. And then anything 6K and above, definitely get like a desktop. Let's say, are you leaving? I love you. What time do you get off? Okay. Well, I'll call you. Love you. Let me know how it goes. So with the editing software, I run DaVinci. You can run Final Cut, Premiere. You can do. There's so many. There's so many you can run. But just remember budgeting all that in because it's not just buying a camera. You know that as well as
Yeah.
anybody, but the new guys don't. So when you do buy a
Yep.
camera, now you're investing in software that is not going to be a free version. It might run you $150 to $250, and then you permanently own that. You can put it on multiple PCs or multiple laptops, and then from there, then you're gonna have mics, whether it's a wireless mic, whether it's a Rode torpedo mic. That's a direct mount to the camera. Both of those are good options for. Uh, I would say get wireless mics. I don't personally have one yet because I
They're nice.
they're nice. They're expensive though. I'm not personally there yet, but if you have the extra money, go ahead and do it. And then for B-roll, custom like little POV shots or maybe the small things, the small angles, so multiple angles to make it more of like a juicy uh, return on what you're filming. Then go with the GoPros or the 360 cams. Do you know what brands those are? I can't remember.
I don't know what the 360 cameras are. I've
Everybody
seen them
has
with
them
the,
though. They're nice, dude.
yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome.
I've seen a bunch of like different like film and stuff with them.
Yeah,
Personally, I don't like them just because I don't like the for like hunting
yeah,
purposes. I don't like I've seen a couple of guys on like Instagram, they'll be in the tree stand, you'll see the bow. It's just like I don't even know what you're shooting at, homie.
yeah. No, and
Like your
it's
description says gigantic buck, and it's just
yeah.
like all I see are some like trees
Mhm.
and a weird ass view.
For like box blinds, I think they're cool because they capture everything. But dude, we
Right.
you run some sessions or heroes like Hero 8 and Plus and some sessions that are really inexpensive. They just don't have a playback screen. You set those up, get one or two different angles with that. One angle that way with the GoPro, and then your main camera. Dude, you're looking. I mean, it looks great.
Yeah,
Um,
I know Tacticam, like they have
yeah.
a lot of like I used one of their cameras the first year I decided that I was like gonna really get back into hunting.
How'd you like that?
I it wasn't bad. I didn't think maybe it's just because I think I had the newest model at the time. No, I didn't. I didn't have the six. I had the five. I felt like the quality of the camera, maybe it was just because it was a like 5 minutes before light. I shot my buck with
Yeah.
it. It was like I sat there. He came out. I watched him for like 10 minutes. I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna shoot him. And then I looked at my phone. I was like, man, I got like 5 minutes before daylight ends. And he was
Mhm.
just standing there because I had some dozer and he was milling around. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna shoot him.
Dude, I
So
think
like I kind of took a low light shot with it,
yeah.
but I don't know. I don't mind it, but I don't like having anything but extra on the front of my bow besides my stabilizer. So for
Yeah.
me, like that's why I'm like, the printed arrow guys, like you can put your phone, which I think is great. I think that's really awesome that like there's all these different options out there for guys to self film. Personally, I don't like putting something on my front of my bow besides my stabilizer, and I also run a 10-degree down, so that would just be weird as shit to like. You
Yeah.
got my
If
stabilizer
you
coming
don't
down at an
practice
angle,
with it,
and
dude, that can compromise your
yeah,
hunt. Like,
yeah, and I
yeah,
practiced a lot with it too on there. That
yeah,
was like a big thing. Like I constantly had it on, and I didn't mind it. It just where I'm at now, hunting and shooting wise, where I'm shooting 100 plus yards, and like now I'm not saying I'm gonna go out and Josh Bomar a deer. I'm gonna start calling it the Josh Bomar, the
the,
Bomar shot.
the JB shot, dude.
The JB shot.
The JV shot, dude. He's a killer.
He is, dude.
Yeah,
I
dude,
love his
like
stuff. I
I don't
love his
care what anybody
content.
says about him. They're talking shit, whatever. Like, who cares, dude?
They're just mad because they can't shoot that far.
Dude. He's a I. So before you finish that, before it leaves my little fucking half awake brain right now, I'm still waking up. I had a super late night, slept like 4 a.m. last night, just watching fucking hunting film. Um, dude, I think he is going. My 2 cents before we hop back on the camera situation. I think he's going for like the most African game killed with a bow. Because him and his wife are always about like,
Yeah,
she got
they're
the
always
first
done that.
buffalo or not, or first hippo with a bow. He was shooting the largest kudu with a bow, free range, then ostrich with a bow, which I think was the first one. And then the Cape Buffalo Black Death, he's shooting them like the records on those, and then of course like all of the leopard with the bow, like it's like he's going out there, and every time he drops a film, I was like, okay, like you're still out there in Africa. He just makes so many trips out there.
Yeah,
I'll watch last night, just coincidentally, it was like a 20-minute video. He shot two Cape Buffalo back to back, over 40 inches apiece. One of them was at 101 yard frontal. It took like 5 steps and piled up. And then they loaded that up, driving that one out. And then he stalked into 20 yards and shot another Cape Buffalo within like 30 minutes. And it's like,
jeez, man.
dude, it's crazy. It's crazy. I definitely think there's going to be an award that comes with that. But he got a lot of flack though for that fucking. I think it was Nebraska.
Oh yeah, yep.
But I don't think that was. I don't think that was him personally though.
No,
That
it wasn't. His whole story is on the We Are Hunter podcast.
okay.
They talk about it all on there and stuff, and uh, it's not my story, but basically, long story short, from what I remember hearing from that podcast, because I did watch it, because I was like, what the is going
Yeah.
on? The outfitter, so Nebraska's laws apparently, like you can bait, but you can't be within 200 yards of the bait. So you basically have to kill any, which is so stupid.
Like what?
And I guess the outfitter that they were going with and stuff was doing some shady stuff with like
Yeah.
the bait, and he was involved because he thought he was just helping out, and the clients were actually shooting him on top of it and stuff. They tried to pin him for shooting him on bait, but they were like, we never shot any of our animals on bait, you know.
And
But
if he
that whole
self-filmed that,
story.
that is
That
like,
whole story is on the We Are Hunter podcast. I'm gonna butcher it because it's been a while since I listened to
yeah,
it, but
I do remember that. It's been over a year for me. I think they released that like over a year ago.
mhm.
I do remember that because that was like
Because the
straight
Beast
thing.
wasn't out yet. Because
No, no,
they kind of talked about it. They're like, oh, we kind of got this new thing coming out,
yeah,
and it was
yeah.
like right before the Beast Brought had launched.
Dude. I mean, I think if he self-filmed any of that, that was like the fucking the 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 saving grace of that, regardless of like what proof is. I mean, you can shoot a big deer anywhere, and you're always gonna have flack because people do. It's you can never please. It's people always have something to say. You can never please everybody, and they always want to say, "Oh, you did this, you did that wrong," just because they're failing, and
Yeah.
they'd rather say anything and everything other than you just outworked me or congratulations.
Yep. Well, and
You
that's
know,
like I think that's why he'll catch flack for a lot of the shots he takes. It's like, oh, that's unethical. Is it unethical, or are you just mad because you can't take that shot?
because you're shooting a 14 to 20-inch group at 100 yards when
Because
me and you both know if the conditions are right, if the crosswind isn't too crazy and you're feeling good. Some days you just don't feel good, dude, and you're shooting a bad group at 50 or 40. You know what I'm talking about.
mm-hmm.
And if some days, dude, everything's coming together, it'll come together just like everything's
Yeah,
coming together. That deer walking through that shooting lane at a not like at a perfect angle during daylight, not 10 hours after, not 10 hours before, but perfect shooting light. It's like it just is what it is. And people they just they have a hard time just congratulating. Lots of
oh
critics,
yeah.
lots of
And like
critics,
a lot
but
of it too is like the long distance archery stuff. I feel like is starting to kind of take over, and I think a lot of it's like, you know, guys like Dan Staten and all these dudes who are posting these just cinematic and just amazing long shot reels. Everyone wants to shoot far, which I'm about it. I love it. When I one of my 3D
absolutely, dude.
events, yeah. I mean, you know how I shoot. I constantly if I'm not shooting far, I'm not happy. Like I want to shoot far. One of
Because
my
it's
first
realistic.
events,
It's realistic.
yeah,
If not, you're already handicapping yourself by we're being dumbasses by chasing shit with a stick and string. Let alone
yeah,
now
it's
you're
like
gonna handicap yourself and be like, I can only shoot X amount of
40
yards. Which
yards.
that's equipment based, arrow based,
Yep.
pound based. But if you're capable, if your legs can walk, why aren't you running? If you're able to pull 70, if you're able to pull 80, do it. If you're able to have good anchor and understand the ethics and like the foundation of archery hunting, why can't you practice out the 80 and 90? So when
And
that
then
shot
take that
comes,
shot.
you're like, okay, like
I can do it.
I'm gonna send it from downtown. And odds are if you practice enough, you're gonna be successful. When you catch
Yeah.
flack, I mean
It's other people get jealous of capabilities of others when they don't put the work in. Um, and that's what it comes down to personally, I think, I heard I was at a 3D event a couple weeks ago, and I heard a guy say we were shooting the course, and like some of the shots on this course were only like I think the longest was like 42 yards. I think there was like a standing bear at 50. But the one guy was like, "Man, why are all these shots so long?" And in my head, I'm like, "Bro, I haven't even got to shoot past 35."
yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, everything's just all these ranges are getting farther and farther and farther." You know,
If you're
back in the day, and I was like, that's the problem is that so many people are stuck with, well, back in the day, you know, 'cause back in the day we didn't have the bows to shoot past 40, we had aluminum arrows that were just these hunk of,
PVC pipes is what I call them.
yeah, dude, you
And
just
you
should have,
just
I've got a PSE firefly up on my wall right now. That's what guys used to hunt with.
cams
Thing
probably look
max,
like this.
yeah, yeah, dude. They're like a dip can size. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous,
yeah, I get
So it's
it.
like, and then you look at like a lift because I have one.
Dude, I'm still jealous, dude. You skinned the teeth off that. You like right there, dude. We are only a couple weeks out, and I mean,
Yeah, dude.
if anybody else, if they're buying a new bow right now, I would be hesitant on them. But I know how much you shoot, and it's you
Yep.
wanted just a few more inches. Isn't that what they all say? Just a few more. So, um,
It's my best looking package I've got.
yeah, I bet, dude. And I hope you kill a mule deer with it. I really do.
Oh, dude.
I'm praying for you, and I hope you shoot a booner. I really hope you don't shoot no dang, just a little 2 by or 3 by. I want you to
Oh,
shoot
I don't even
a
see you're sitting there. I'm the first mule that I see that's got antlers. I'm going in. Like I'm
I
getting in
get it.
after him.
It's
I don't even
redemption. I get it.
because
Yeah.
I and like that's the thing. I don't know how like where you want how you want to tailor this conversation because I feel like we can go random rabbit holes for a while.
That's what we're here to do.
Um,
We're here to entertain the people driving to work, and
but like Nebraska, dude. I that first morning we were in Nebraska, so I went to the Sandhills last year for 2023. Bought an over the counter tag when Nebraska was still doing that stuff, and then went out there. My first morning, it was super foggy, rained like a mother. We got one of those good western rainstorms, and I used to live in Nebraska, so like those storms were nothing that I hadn't seen before.
Mhm.
And we woke up the next morning super foggy, and I was like, oh man, it's like the grass was super wet, and we were kind of debating on just like hanging out at the truck until like the fog started to lift, maybe push out like 500 yards from the truck. And we're like, well, let's just kind of go walk and see if we can't find some like spots. There's like a heavy pine tree, like kind of like pocket. Maybe we'll catch some stuff moving out into the sand hills. So we did like a mile movement, sat and start or glass for a while, watched the pines. Nothing came out. Started moving our way back, and my buddy goes, "There's a deer over there," and I went, "Well, freaking!" And he's just like, bare eyes staring off in the distance, and I'm like, and I got good vision. I ain't never looked at a mule deer before in the woods. I'm like,
Yeah.
Hunter, it's hills. He goes, watch the very far the top
Mhm.
line. I was like, okay. Watching this like top ridge line, I see movement. And I'm like, oh shit. So I pull my binos up, and we had three really nice bucks. We had two really nice 2x2s, and then one real big 3x3. I think he had a little bit of trash on him, or it could have just been branches or whatever. So we ended up moving like 3,000 yards within like an hour and a half to try to get on these deer. Got within 160, the wind swirled on us. And then later that night, I think I'm pretty sure I sent you a picture. I pushed out because Hunter's feet got all messed up from all the water and stuff with like his boots. It would rub his heels raw. So he was stuck to being at the truck, and I pushed out about 1,000 yards from the truck, and I spotted this deer. He was narrow, like he wasn't super wide, but he was narrow, what you would like. He was like your normal 2x2 side on the left, and then
A
his right
forky.
side went real tall,
Yeah.
but like forked out like a Michigan 4 point.
Yeah.
And I ended up moving in. I got into on him. I was 500 yards away from him, and I had like conditions perfect, dude. He was bedded down on top of a hill. He was facing away from me. His does were in front of him, and the wind was hitting them in the face, and I was behind them. I had every condition perfect, and I sat there at 500 yards, and I went, I'm either going to get there and it's going to be a low light shot, or I sit here, I watch, I come back in the morning and see if I can locate him again. But also, I just saw these three really nice bucks
Mhm.
on day one,
It's a tough
and then
thing.
I went through that whole thing, and I was talking to my buddy on the radio, and I was just like, hey, I got this buck. I sent him pictures of it because we saw it serviced out there, and he was like, well, it's day one. He goes, but. And I think you texted me too. You're like, well, don't pass it if you'd shoot it on on the last day. And then I remember like, yeah, I'm gonna let him go. So then I just I moved back to the truck, got charged by a cow or two, and then never located that buck. And then after that, it was like 7 days of just no deer.
Dude, it'll turn off like that and turn on and turn off. That's something that in big country, it's something that you could go days without seeing anything, and out of
Yeah.
nowhere, it's like boom, 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 and what it's that's where patience comes in, and also, like I said, it's like a game of chess. You're trying to figure out what you're gonna do next, or what you're gonna do after that. If you do make a choice, if you're gonna wait on that buck, those does, well, then what's your game plan for tomorrow or the next day? Say if you did see other deer, it's it's. I personally want to go to the Sandhills. That's something I'd like to do. I understand 60 is probably going to be an average shot unless you luck out, just because
Hey,
it's so
Google
open
says
there.
Google says the average is 33 yards. If you Google average mule deer archery like archery kill
Yeah, I would probably
in
say it's
Sand Hills,
horseshit. There's
Nebraska,
there's like no trees
it's
out there.
says 33 yards, and I was
I would
like,
say it's
that is
horseshit.
bullshit.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll say that's a pile just because, dude, there's nothing to hide behind out there. Like you're
no,
gonna skyline on every little hill you get in, unless you're going down and back up.
you're low crawling everything,
Dude, that's
anything and
gonna be
everything.
so freaking loud with that dead grass if you're
Yep.
not just a ninja, you know. But
Or unless you find a cactus with your kneecap and you make a small little,
that's me every
because
single time I
I did
try to
that.
stalk in Texas, dude. That I was pulling cactus out of my calf, out of my thighs, out of my elbows, out of my stomach, dude.
Hmm.
That was tough, but it was
Yeah.
rewarding. I get
It
it.
was, dude, and like the thing is, like, I had fun no matter whether, like, and that's the big thing too. It's just like I went on that hunt, I ate that tag, but I still had a blast. You know,
And
like
that
and like,
goes back to the filming, you know, all the little things leading up, the drive out there. You drove, didn't you?
yeah,
The
yeah,
drive
yeah. My
out
buddy
there,
and I
the
drove 16
jokes
straight hours.
when you're half asleep at the gas station and like it's we're at we're we're in Texas, right? And we were like, let's stop, you know, I wanna it's like my anniversary is coming up and I believe that's what it was. Yeah. It's coming up. So like let's stop by a souvenir store. His girlfriend, he wants to get her something. And we go into this place, right? And they have like framed pictures of like Jelly Roll and like 50 Cent and like these like we were like half asleep. We've been getting like 3 hours of sleep a night every day, dude, hunting for like 17 hours a day, just sweating our ass off, just dying, right? 2 gallons of water a day. We're just beat. And we go to the store, dude. And they have like these little like leathered pictures of like Jelly Roll and 50 Cent. I'll send them to you. And it was like they weren't selling them. They're just like little like murals. And then like
Yeah,
Prince was on one of them, and then somebody else was on them. And we were just like, what the fuck? Like it was just the
it's weird.
funniest shit.
You just see some random stuff. I think that's like the thing.
Yeah.
It's like it was a fun time. Like regardless of I so we got out there. Maybe this is too raunchy for the people, but this is hunting. So we got out to Nebraska
Mhm.
and we moved around a lot because it was, I mean, we had 117,000 acres that we were on of state land, trying to find deer, driving around, doing that thing, and we were pretty close to this town, and I'm not going to say the town, but we were pretty close to this town. And I was like, hey, I was like, you know what? We didn't really bring snacks. I didn't bring any snacks. Like I brought snacks, but like not the good snacks. I'm a fat kid. I'm not actually like a fat kid, but like I'm a fat kid at heart. I like Oreos. I like Swedish fish. I like candy. I had no energy drinks. I was like, oh, I'm gonna drink all water. That's a bullshit lie. So we go into the town, and hit up the Dollar General. This town's got,
The
you know,
Dollar Tree.
the Dollar General, the Family Dollar. So we go in
Yeah.
there, we get a bunch of snacks, and we're like, hey, do we just want to go to McDonald's right here and get some lunch? I was like, yeah, we brought all this. I went out early doe season in Michigan and I shot a doe and I brought a bunch of, I brought her out with us to Nebraska. That sounds really weird saying it like that. Like I brought a bunch of meat with me from Nebraska or from that deer with me to Nebraska. So I brought the back straps. I brought some burger and all that stuff.
That
So we get a
sounded
fresh
really
venison.
weird.
It did. It did. It sounded. I don't like. I regret saying it the way I did. So I shot this doe, and then I brought the meat from that doe out to Nebraska with
You
us.
got her in the cooler tucked back there. Picked her up
Yeah,
in
I got her. I got her
top
tucked in there.
72. This dude.
So we go in, and we hit up talk. Or no, this was when we changed spots. Sorry, we stopped at a truck stop, and I messed up. I got gas station food. I got hot gas station food.
Yeah, you got bubble guts for sure, dude.
We had been eating just out of the field, like we were eating Mountain House meals and like venison and stuff. So it wasn't like in like normal noodles. It wasn't like we were eating MREs like I was when I was in the military. But I got some chicken from some like chicken sandwiches from this truck stop. And we got out to our spot. We did a little bit of recon that night. And we're like, all right, well, we'll sit here for a day and stuff. And we'll just glass a bunch and see what happens. And that night, dude, I could not lay down in the tent. I was in so the tent that we were in, it wasn't a ground tent. My buddy had a 2500 Cummins on a 3.25 inch lift with 40-inch tires, and I mean, it was a big, big ass truck, and so going up and down the ladder was rough. And I just kept my headlamp around my neck because it was like every time I laid down, it was just like, and it was like I was like, I gotta go. So I'd have to climb out of the tent
Yeah.
and run off to the fence line with
Fucking
my e
die for a
with
minute.
and with my e tool and like just hope that I hit like just I was like I'm just here. And dude. The next morning I did that probably like 7, 8 times that night.
Just defeated. Just
The next
defeated.
morning, the next morning, we got up to like go out and get ready to leave, and you just see like 7 or 8 different like fresh dirt mounds from where I was covering up covering up everything because I just kept moving my way down the fence line because I didn't want to be near the other stuff because it was bubble guts, dude. It was rough. I'm like, I don't want to be in that like 5 foot vicinity because I don't know what
There's
the spray was.
Dude,
It was
there's
it
only
was
one
awful.
situation that's worse than that, and that's when you're in a fucking saddle up a tree.
Oh,
If
dude.
anybody does a saddle, that thing is just around your butt cheek so tight, and you can't do anything. Like people will be like, "Oh, just just whatever." Like
Lean over the stand. It's like you can't.
you can't,
You're
dude.
in the
And you're not
stand
going to
is
take
that.
that saddle off because then you're just free falling. You
Yeah.
know, I that's the worst. Or when you drink, dude, I've drank some questionable ass water out hunting. You just you're like, oh, well, there's water here, 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 and here. We're gonna pack in a few liters, and then anything from a few liters as soon as you leave, like if it's like under 4 or 5, that shit's gone in like day one. Like you just don't realize how much
See,
water.
I'm not a big water drinker.
Yeah,
Like I do, but
usually
like
I'm
when I
not, but when
sweat,
I'm out hunting, I'm just like fucking
I don't pound
infinitely parched.
I
So
don't pound a lot of water when I'm out. Like even when I was in the Marine Corps and stuff, like we'd be out doing hikes like 20K rucks or whatever in California and
mhm.
like with the heat and stuff. And I never really crushed a lot of water on my movements and stuff. I never have, and I'm still like that. Like when I went out to Nebraska, it was hot, it was 90 degrees, we were moving 5, 6 miles a day, and I barely ever touched my water ever.
I'm more like that whenever I'm working out, training around the house. Like I struggle like to get 100 like ounces of water in me a day.
Yeah,
And
I have
that's
to like
like
force
tough.
myself to drink.
It's tough, yeah, and that's like when I'm out hunting though. I think I just take. I look. I feel like try to take care of myself a little better because I'm like nothing is pulling me off of this hunt until it is my
Right.
last day or I tag out or it's
Yeah.
like a legit emergency. Like we have to go. You know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like I'm talking like I'll have the yard sale of like everything from Finnegan for nausea. I have like every little thing you can think of to make sure that like if you got stomach problems, this will clean you out.
So
This will lock you up. This will help you out like to keep us up here. And I've drank some water before that's like we have no water. Like life straw in this and just fucking plug your nose and chug because like that's it. Luckily, I didn't get sick. I've gotten sick before because I left water, I think, too long in my freaking bladder to like
oh yeah. Yep,
and
that'll
like
do it.
dude, and I fucking hit it and like immediately was just like basically was like gagging because it was like this sour, like wasn't good. And I wasn't thinking. I cleaned out my bladder, but I didn't clean out the hose.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to go through this right now because it was like it ended pretty bad where I didn't have a bladder to drink from, and I was carrying water around in like water bottles, and that's just inconvenient as hell, and just really not ideal at all. Uh, and that was I think during my bear hunt in Idaho last year. Yeah, I hit it, and it was like a stale pondish tasting, and I was like, "That's not good." And dude, I didn't get sick, but I was out without a bladder, and I think town was like 5 hours away, and I was like, "I'm not driving 5 hours to town one way in 5 hours."
It's funny, dude, because like these bad guys right here, man, the calf, like those are my kill. It's so you were talking about like being up in your saddle and stuff and having to, you know, do the do. So last year it was like prime rut. I got off of work early because when I was in the trades, I mean, getting off work early wasn't really a thing. It was just because I got sent home. I was like, all right, I'm gonna grab an energy drink. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna get to the stand. I'm gonna grab some food. So I grabbed a couple protein bars and like I was heading out. I got to my lease and I had chugged a rain. I'm walking and it's like 2 in the afternoon. I was like, I'm gonna get out early. I'm already home, like whatever. I'm like walking, and I almost shot a deer on the ground. I was walking, and the doe came through the apple trees. I
Yeah.
got down real quick, and it was like super tall grass, so I was just kind of sitting there, and she had like a little 6 point behind her. I'm like, I really want to shoot the doe. I was like, but the buck is like small. I'm not shooting him. And I was like, well, maybe I'll sit here for a little bit. They moved off into the swale. I kind of sat and waited for a bigger one. Nothing came out. So I got to my stand, and it was like I started getting that pressure in my stomach where I was like, I got to go now, but I can't move because I might shit myself. So dude, I was at a point to where like I was standing in the stand on just my left leg, and I was like, okay, if I can just get down, I can make it like over to like the far side of these apple trees,
Dude, I
and I'll
don't
be
give
all
a
right.
fuck who you are. I don't care if you think it's gross, dude. It's happened to every
Oh
single
yeah, and it's like,
freaking
and
one
this has
of us,
happened to me
dude.
before, dude. Like so many times. Like when I was a kid, like I had a weird sensitive stomach in the morning,
Yeah.
and my stepdad, I felt so bad for the things I've put him through because there's been so many mornings I'm like, Troy, I got to go to the bathroom. And he's like,
It's prime time, dude.
yeah, it's like just about to be sunrise, but like I'm sitting in the stand and I'm like, dude, it was one of those ones where like I couldn't move, and I had to praise. I was praying to God that I could keep my ass cheeks tight because it was just
dude,
one of those.
dude.
And I was like, all right, cool, the pressure's gone. So I start climbing down the stand, and I'm like halfway down the stand, and I look over and there's a deer coming out. I was like, are you shitting me? So I stop and freeze. And then that pressure came back. I'm like, oh, and I'm like holding onto the stand, just like I'm
Sweating, dude.
tensioning.
I get
Yeah,
it.
I'm
I get it.
sweating. I'm tensioning every muscle in my body. And then finally that deer kind of walked off. And I'm like, I just got to get back up in the stand. If I shit myself, I shit myself. If I shoot a big buck, I don't care. So I got up in the stand. And I just sat there. I was like, I don't know if I can even draw. I couldn't even reach over to grip my bow at one point. Cause like if I moved, I was like, it was so bad. And I was like, okay. I was just like, I accepted in my head. I'm like, okay, if a shooter walks out, I'm gonna shit my pants tonight, but I'm gonna kill this deer. I don't care how nasty it is. And I just accepted that in my head. So I
That's
just
so
sat there the
fucking
entire night,
hilarious,
and
dude.
dude, it was so bad. I don't know. I remember it got just about like I'm one of those guys like when it's getting to that point to where like it's low light, I know I can take low light shots. I don't really prefer them just because of a lot of things can happen you don't pick up. You know, once you get
Dude,
down to that tunnel.
that pin could be too bright, and
Yep.
if you can't adjust the brightness for the light in a legal state, you know, some states don't even allow it.
Yep.
If you can really toggle that light down to the lowest setting, that's the best for low light. You don't need this big old freaking
Yeah.
laser beam of a pin, because when as soon as you bring that housing over that deer, you could be
It's gone.
above the shoulder,
Yeah.
top of the shoulder. You could be halfway to the shoulder. You know, you don't really know where that pin is exactly, unless, especially if it's like over 30 yards too. It's like I personally will take them, but I follow the leg up. You know,
Yeah. So like there's
I come down if I'm in a tree stand, because clearly, you
yep,
know, it's
you're
just
up
housing
high
that
and
draw. But when I'm low light, I draw and I go to the foot that's touching the ground, and I bring it right to where I think I see brisket. And like that's where I basically hold, because odds are they're going to drop in. It'll be a low lung shot, heart shot. I mean,
well
that's
those HXPs now that we're gonna be running this year. I don't really we gotta
dude. I hate to break it to you. I'm going to be killing some shit this year, dude. Oh, ooh, it's getting me excited thinking
dude,
about it.
I'm
I,
I'm I'm excited to try them out this year. I just you know, like I said, I think kind of going to broadheads, like I don't really know what if you actually have a scheduled plan way to talk on this, but bullshitting is how I usually go
you know,
about my life.
usually I have notes, you know, written and all that, but at the end of the day, you know,
Yeah. It's not like we can't do part twos and part threes and
yeah, yeah.
but so I think the way I'm gonna run my quiver is I'm gonna do three FX4s, and then I'm gonna do for mule deer at least. The fact okay, so let's talk about bow setup real quick. I guess getting into this so that and we'll talk about it like this because this is how I'm gonna justify doing this. So because I have to talk like arrow setup for sure. I'm gonna have the FX4, which I have one somewhere around here.
FX4
Got
from Rec, correct?
yep, FX4 from Rec. These bad guys.
Yep. Got the fixed blade, vented,
Fixed
whatever you
blade,
use that are good.
vented. I'm pretty sure I shot a deer with this one. Yep, I did. That one's going in the quiver. So I'm gonna run three of those in the front for like stalking purposes because I did run the HXP or the XPs for turkey season, and I did pop a couple springs on grass because the way the blades sit out. Um, the grass got super tall here in Michigan really quick, so I popped a couple springs. But I will be running the FX4s primarily while I'm in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where it comes into play. It's like, okay, so we look at the HXPs here. That's a big slap. That's a big cut. That's really gonna hurt some feelings. I would love to shoot a mule deer with that. But we get into the topic of arrows and like, oh, well, if it's too big of an expandable, you'll lose this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. I'm
Mm,
also shooting 80 pounds on a lift,
yeah,
29 and a half inch draw, and my arrow's moving at 311 feet per second.
because you chronoed it yesterday.
I'm not. This is not guessing for anyone listening. This is not me guessing.
Country boy math.
Yeah, this
You
is not me
chronoed it.
going, oh, well, it took half a second for my arrow to hit the target. No, this was shot through a chrono at my local shop where I got my bow, Grand Valley Sporting Goods. If you're local to West Michigan, go check them out. Matt and his guys are absolutely phenomenal dudes. I have to throw a shout out for them because they've been amazing since we started everything. We do the bow giveaways with them through NX Archery. They're the techs that we work with. But so now I'm like, well, man, with me shooting, the way I'm shooting and like the way I don't really think I'm going to have an issue with this going into an animal at distance or being a mule deer. Like mule deer are a lot. I think mule deer are definitely, from what I've heard, are tougher than whitetail. They're bigger. They're just a bigger, beefier animal. I would say they're just beefier than whitetail, unless you shoot like a real mature Ohio whitetail or anything like that. But so
300
I'm either
pounder.
going to have. I think I'm just going to honestly go straight with the HXPs in my quiver this year for my follow up shots. But also, if I can get to a point to where maybe I find some spots where I can just sit and wait, I would love to have that be the first broadhead I put into an animal. But, with Nebraska, it's very tall grass. It's not, you may not have the most optimal shot. And I would rather have, like, my mind says, like, I'd rather have this to where if I do have a shot where I have to go through some grass, I trust my fixed blade over my expandable.
Mhm.
And it's nothing against, it's not because Rec made a bad design or anything, but expandables, they'll open and it'll
Takes
deflect.
3 pounds, 3 to 4 pounds for that thing to open. So
Right. And it's like all it takes is enough grass or whatever to slow it down or open it, deflect it with a fixed blade. That's kind of they're known for punching through stuff a little bit more. Um,
in the grass you're talking about, you're not talking about shooting through.
it's yeah, it's not
You can
grass.
see the
It's
vitals. That's just there's a couple blades you might have to zip it through, which usually that shit just lays
and
up.
it's more like
But
weeds out there than anything
yeah,
than grass. It's like that thick, weedy grass. So it's not like thin blade grass you're gonna find in an orchard where it's really not gonna do much.
yeah.
It can get super thick, but I think that's where the shot placement and like
You
picking my
still see
shot.
vitals. You're not just
Yeah,
shooting. You're not just seeing
yeah.
antlers and saying, "Oh, his top of his back's right here.
Let
His
me just come
ears
down
right
through this
here."
bush real quick.
Yeah, no. Which a lot of people need to understand. Don't take those shots. Which as well as I do.
Right.
A lot of guys will just say, "Well, I know where his
With a
vitals are."
fixed blade.
Well, motherfucker, if you knew where his vitals were, you'd see his vitals. Like
Right.
every archer will tell you, don't take those shots
And
because
that's just where it comes into the cape, like we were talking earlier when we first started recording. It's just that's where it comes in with the capabilities and the understanding of your equipment. And I think like that's the shortcoming in a lot of guys. You see, I've got people personally that I know. I won't go too in depth with it. I mean, it's not like they're probably ever going to watch this, but we don't get along very well just because, you know, 2 weeks before bow season, let me pull my bow out and go shoot. And it's like
that's a whole
personally
nother,
for me,
like
and that's a whole different topic, and personally
that's
for me, like I
it
shoot as much as I
genuinely
do because
frustrates me.
yeah. And like for me personally, I shoot a lot because for me, um, it's really for me like my bow saved me, man. Like my mental health, like that's why I started shooting. I didn't really care about hunting purposes. And I'm at that point now with my life where all I could ever do is shoot foam and I'll be happy. I just truly love being behind my bow and shooting. Um, it's what has brought me a lot of peace and it's helped me heal through a lot of the bullshit and like my past that I just, had and that I ultimately put myself through because I was a dumbass. So for me, it's like I shoot a bunch. It's not just for that, but also at the same
Yeah.
point, it's just like for the hunting purposes. Like the first year I moved back to Michigan, I went down to hunt at my uncle's house, and I thought I was hot shit because I had a Tetra sight. I thought I was going to be this, I had a roller sight and I'm shooting a bag at 50 yards. Well, guess what? I got so like in my own shit, I didn't reset my pin for 20 yards after missing a doe at 30 yards because I jumped I peaked because I was like, oh, I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna get it. And then she came back. She worked her way back out. Dumbass. She came back out, and I was like, all right, bitch. Didn't reset my pin to 20. She was at 15, but she was steep enough to where when I did shoot, I held right below her heart,
Yeah.
and I hit her in the spine. It was a horrible kill, man. Like I got down on
Horrible,
my, I got down.
but it happens.
So she just, let that bleat, and my stepdad and my uncle were both out on the property, and they both heard it, and they're like, "Oh, Joe's got one," because they heard her bleat. I crawled down, and I went to shoot another arrow off at her to finish her off, and she flopped, so the arrow skimmed her brisket. She let out another bleat, and I was like, "Son of a bitch!" I had one arrow left, and I got up on top of her. I put it in her, and I was still kind of back in the guts, but she was dead at that point. Um, and it just like that like set a thing for me. I was like, what in the hell am I doing out here?
That right there usually sets the tone and kind of checks yourself, reality check, a mental check,
Yeah.
like uh a ego check as well.
Yeah, it's an ego check. Because
Because
opening day of that season,
yeah,
um, that was so leading up to that, my ex and I had just broke up, and I was like in a really dark place, and I was just like, oh, I don't really want to hunt. I don't really want to do anything. Like I just shot my bow a bunch, because I had been coming up to just about like a year and a half of sobriety and stuff. So I was like still kind of dealing with that stuff, and I didn't really have the urge to hunt. And then I was like, no, I'm going to do it this year. Opening day, I shot I shot a little basket 8. It was the first buck I'd shot in 6 years, and it was probably the first year that I shot with my stepdad in the stand with me in like 12
yeah.
years. And I wasn't even, like, dude, I remember I shot him, and like him and I argued about it. I have the video on my phone. He's like, dude, that's like you haven't shot a deer in 6 years, man. Like that's a good little buck to shoot for your first time. And like him and I are arguing about this, and this buck is just walking out to us. And I was like, no, 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 he's small. And he's like, dude, you haven't shot anything in 6 years. And I was like, all right, whatever. So I drew back, I stopped him. And like I'm watching the footage. This is my monster chill. I saw the chill at the time. I didn't have a face for it yet. I'm sitting there, and was nothing wrong with the monster chill. And you just see my finger like come up and just smack the shit
We were
out of the
talking about
trigger.
that yesterday. The guys
Smack
that
the shit out of the trigger.
smack it like Ike Turner, dude. They
I
like,
hit him. I hit him high shoulder, and he ran. And my stepdad turned. I turned around. My stepdad. He was filming on his phone, and I turned around, and he's just, dude. He's ear to ear, and I'm just like, oh yeah, cool. Like I was so disconnected from everything. I was just like, oh yeah, okay, cool. And I hit him high shoulder. I hit a vein, like a made artery. So that's why he bled out internally. Like there was like my broadhead barely went through. I was shooting the maximum reds, probably like freaking 9% FOC, not really there, but he ended up running. We sat for an hour, dude. And he ran into this place we call the sanctuary. We don't go in there. We have a stand about 70 yards off of it, which is kind of funny because I can shoot to the edge of it now, just with how much I shoot. But so we walk in, we track, and it was like little blood, little blood. Every once in a while, we're seeing like double-sided blood on the trails. All right, so I must have poked through. I poked literally through like that much. I think I have. So this is the broadhead I shot him with. This is a Gator Blackout.
don't even.
So
I've never even heard of that.
they're a Cabela's brand. They're just like a cheaper brand. They work really well if you hit well, but they deflect like a motherfucker.
Okay.
So basically, that's all you could see was like just that tip chisel. They're the tip of the blade. And we ended up tracking him. We pushed him off a bed. Didn't realize it because he wasn't bleeding out. He wasn't bleeding out anywhere. My arrow was in him, and it broke off and it sealed up. And just, we're sitting there tracking, and we're walking through the orchard. And he was bedded in the orchard. And my stepdad was like, "Joe, right there." He got up, ran 40 yards, and then he did a death run and died. And I was like, "Oh, cool." I got my first little buck, and I wasn't happy with the way that went because I was like, "Dude, like I don't." What the hell? I shot all summer.
Another
I was
reality
shooting,
check, another
yeah, and I was
ego check
shooting so
because
much. And that's when I was like, I watched the video a bunch. I'm like, man, like I just look horrible shooting that bow. Like I slapped it, all this and that, and then that doe, and I was like, what the heck? And then after I shot that doe, I shot my bigger eight, which is on the wall, with my Tacticam, and that's where I learned about the QAD felt real
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
Um,
I think everybody, if they don't wrap their QAD, they're kind of doing themselves to
yeah.
injustice.
Or if you don't pay attention to it and you shoot a lot, like me, like in the off season, I'm not too worried about it, but like come season, I always change it out right away, and I carry
I,
extra felt in my
I
stand.
put bow wax on mine.
Yeah,
Any thing that is moving on my system, I put minus the dial on my mobile site. I'll put bow wax on because I don't really see why not.
I did bow wax for a quick fix on my QAD and it worked.
Yeah.
But yeah, then I shot my buck and I kind of like that, and that's the one I was saying. Like, I watched him for a while and I shot him with the Tacticam. I can send you the video and stuff later. And um, you know, it was funny, man. Like I shot him at 12 yards, drew my bow back. Last little bit of light. I had like 10 minutes of light left. And I'm draw back and I'm waiting. And as I get like full draw, you'll hear when I send you the video, you'll hear the and he like turned and now he's quartering to me. He was broadside, now he's quartering.
Yeah.
And I was like, shit. Shot and I hit him top shoulder. I mean, I opened him up though, and that one like it was like fuck, top shoulder again. What the heck, He went 40 yards and piled up. And I shot him with a Muzzy Trocar hybrid, which I have one of those in here still too.
Dude,
So
anybody who wants, who wants an entry level, they're on a really tight budget. Go grab some Muzzy Trocars, dude. They're
dude,
trotted.
these
I've
things
shot
right
those
here,
for years.
the Trocar hybrids, they're a
Oh,
fixed and a mechanical with a
okay.
chisel head. They're a good broadhead. I don't like them specifically because there's no retention on the blades,
Mhm.
and I was testing them before, so we can get into the rec broadhead and why I picked those two if you want, because this kind of leads into that. So the Trocar hybrids, I was getting ready for mule deer, and I was shooting, the gators and the blackout gators, the first ones I showed you, and the Muzzy Trocars. I'm like, those are the two I'm thinking about doing this year. And I was having some really weird, inconsistent flights with them, and I was like, what the hell? It's like, do I got to start moving my rest? Well, then I went to Dunham Sports here in Michigan. I don't know if they're outside of Michigan, and I saw this thing called this package that said wreck, and I went, I could say get wrecked, loser, if I shot something. That's literally where my mind went. I'm a child, and so I seen the FX4s, and I'm like, at first I was supposed to be doing an elk hunt, so I was still on the elk hunt mode. I'm like, I want a fixed blade for elk. That's what all these guys say they would use. That's what Dan Staten says to use for your first, like, all these dudes are talking about, fixed blades. I'm like, well, I should get a good fixed blade. So I started looking at the rec package. I was like, oh, made in Michigan. I was like, well, okay, I'm going to go look these guys up first. I got on Instagram and I started messaging them. I was like, hey, I find your FX4s and stuff. Like, I'm having some weird, inconsistent flights with these broadheads. Like, you guys say field point accuracy. Like, I was like, so, like, what's up about that? They're like, no, we say it, we mean it. And I went, okay, you sons of bitches. Went back. I spent the $54 on a pack of Rec FX4s, and I walked out dude. I didn't even like shoot back. I literally dropped the pack. I screwed broadhead on, and I went, all right, sons of bitches. Field point accuracy, my ass. I know fixed blades aren't going to fly that great because I'm starting to get into aero building. I walked back at 70 yards, drew back, and so these 2-inch orange circles are what I use a lot on my targets and stuff, just to
Yeah.
give myself a small dot. 70 yards, walk back, drew my bow back, shot, hit center of it. I went, son of a bitch. I'm using them. So that led me into realizing that what was happening with those gator blackouts and the trocars is that once those trocars are shot once, the blades were opening. The blades get so loose, and like even tightening them down, it's like I was having a really weird, inconsistent flight with them. Some were hitting good. I have like 3 or 4 of them, and like 2 would hit
Too much
good.
planing on the front of the arrow, and then those
Yeah,
lanes are just fighting because your arrow is constantly doing just
kind of like a wave.
a pivot. It is, and it doesn't matter the stiffness of your shaft; it's always going to do it. And then those fletchings on the back are going to guide that pivot or that
Yeah.
wiggle
Yep.
mid-flight. And if you have anything on the front of your arrow that's basically contradicting or fighting the back end of that fletching, you are in a very bad situation because that arrow can out of nowhere drop, hit left, hit
Yep.
right.
And that's what was happening with those muzzies, dude. I had one arrow literally I shot and I was like, I watched it go like this and went, the blades opened and deployed. So it banked like it was doing a dogfight maneuver. And I was like, yeah, not using those this year. So then I ran the FX4s basically all season. I had the HXP or the XPs, sorry, the XPs. And then I last year I decided, I was like, I'm gonna grab some Grim Reapers too. Just I wanted to shoot some with those 3 blades because I remember from high school they were pretty nasty. And I didn't end up getting anything with the XPs last year. I got a doe with the Grim Reaper 3 blade, but uh, I basically would just get in the stand and I just had them mixed in there. I didn't know, I knew all the broadheads shot good. So before someone hears that and say, you're just going to shoot a random broadhead, before I go out with any broadhead, I always shoot to make sure it's on. And
Mhm.
so I had the FX4s, the XPs, and the Grim Reapers in my quiver, and I shot them all. Grim Reapers come with the practice head. The XPs, I have the practice heads for those two, so everything shot good. I was like, all right, cool. Um, and I just basically would get in the stand, and I just grab a random arrow, knock it, put it on, and daylight would tell me which one I picked, and whatever one I picked was the one I was hunting with today. So that's ended up how I shot that doe with the Grim Reapers, which
Yeah.
she was already shot once during bow season.
So the Grim Reapers, whenever I was looking for new heads, I always shot muzzies. They were, I wasn't shooting anything past 40 yards. Always had good luck with them. Just fixed 3 blade, no bleeders or
Yeah.
no hybrid, and I mean they're good. I've killed a lot of animals with them, lots of critters, and then I went to, I wanted to shoot a mechanical, so I went to Swacker. I've seen so much marketing on those. A lot of guys killing stuff with them, crazy holes with them. Started shooting Swackers, and I lost 2 animals with them. So 206 or 207 model, whatever the green ones are. Not impressed at all with them, considering it cost me 2 animals, 14 yards on each. Like not like 14 yards on one, and I think like sub 20 on the other.
Yeah.
Complete broadside, no blood, complete pass through, which was good, but I don't. Maybe it was just too much of a clean cut. I don't know. So after that, it was a big Kentucky buck. I was just super irritated, and that's just I'm switching gear. I mean, you don't mess up. Somebody who shoots like enough like I do and like you do, 14-yard shot, complete double lung, like right center punch to lungs, dude. I mean, it's just like complete double lung, not one, not like both. And that deer to still live, because I didn't find him. I looked everywhere. Um, 30 something acre property. He's not making it off that property. With a double lung shot, couldn't find him, and lo and behold, well, he did because he wasn't on it. So I switched gears and I was going to get some new heads, and I was holding a pack of the Rex FXD, which is the single bevel, and then a pack of the Grim Reaper, the 3 blade whitetail special. I think I forgot what brand it is.
Yep, that's the ones I have that I shot that
Dude,
doe
and
with.
I've seen people just lay him down with that thing too, and like I was like, all right, I want to try something different. Um, and I was either fixed blade or going to that, and I just was like, I was just try the FXD, the Rec. They're a local company. We'll see how they are. I wanted to support something local, and lo and behold, it was just a killing fest with those. So that kind of got me on the, excuse me, it kind of got me on the Rec train. And if it's not broke, don't fix it, type thing.
Right.
And after all that, it kind of transitioned from the fixed blade to the mechanicals, and uh, after shooting the XPs, I've laid a few animals down this year with them, and now the HXP came out, which is going to be a bigger cut on those. I'm pumped, dude. I have a few tags. I believe I'm going to be able to fill. It is hunting, but it's lots of work in the woods and sweat equity. I can't quit yawning. Shit, lots of work and sweat equity and prep will time will tell on
Yep.
that, and that's kind of where that's just where I lay on that. And the arrow setup I have Easton Axis 5 mil, four vein fletch with a dip on the back end and a 3-degree helical running the AAE Max 26s on
Love
there.
those.
And I mean, you've seen those when they're shooting tactical. They fly like lasers. They
That's
fly
what
great.
I shot those veins last year on my
Yeah.
extreme velocities. I have a shit ton of them still.
Yeah.
I absolutely love those
I
veins.
like
I
the
really
stiffness
do.
of them. They're hardy. You know, there's not really much flex in them. If you run a 3-degree four fletch like I do, you're gonna get lots of rotation on them. They're gonna fly like lasers. If your bow's properly paper tuned, they will just they will fly like a laser.
Yeah,
I
that's
run
one thing. So, I got the HPs, the shorter, like the
okay.
Blazer style,
Yep.
and these are all straight right now. There's no helical, no spin.
Yeah.
I'm tinkering with that right now, because I've been using a Arizona Easy jig.
Which
For,
I have one of those, a straight fletch. They come with a heavy helical one too. I would grab one of those and
I'm
see.
going to. It's a max helical. I'm gonna get one and test it out and just um see the difference. I tinker with so much. I don't have a bow press to do all that stuff with.
Yeah.
So for me, it's arrows. So I'm going to get a max helical jig because they only come in max helical, which is fine. I'm cool with it. I like
And I
the
believe if you run a max helical, I think you can only run a 3 fletch with
yeah,
a max
yep,
helical because there's so much helical you can't get another fletching on there.
yeah.
I could be wrong on that, but
I no, I think you're right
everything I'm seeing with people that run those max helicals, like there's no room for a fourth.
because
If
you
I'm
got too much offset and everything. There's so much.
It's contagious now. Now you didn't caught the
Excuse me.
yawns. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking, dude. I see people run them and they're shooting darts, which
A lot of
is
guys say they parachute too much for them at 100 yards. I'm like, well, here's the thing. Do they parachute at 100 yards? What's your likelihood of shooting 100 yards on an animal? Probably unlikely. It's probably low that you're going to actually shoot 100 yards, even if you're
well,
an out west hunter, because like unless you're hunting like the plains or like the sand hills or something like that where it's super open, yeah, I can see that. But more spin is going to be better for accuracy. And is it parachuting enough to where it's going to like cause you to miss
now are you
or
parachuting with a fixed blade on there? Which let's break it down.
yeah,
And that's something that everybody's setup's different. Are they running? Are they running tons of weight on the back end? Are they running so much weight on the front end? Are they running 180? Are they running a freaking 175 grain broadhead with a hit collar and then only have 3 little fletchings on the back end and all of the weight of their arrows on the front? It's like, what do
that
you
heavy FOC of like 25%, like yeah,
course,
your
of
arrow
course
is
it's
going to
going to
be
parachute because your veins are fighting the front of your freaking arrow so bad that it's like, oh my god, And I mean, you're
yeah.
losing so much velocity because you're shooting such a heavy FOC.
When it's like you get the when you have low FOC, right? Like the back of your arrow is here, and then your
Yep.
arrow's flying like this.
Yep.
But when you get too much, well, now your arrow's flying like this.
Yep.
Then this is obviously like over dramatized, but like for people listening that unless this goes on YouTube or whatever, I'm basically taking my arrow and I'm tilting it backwards, putting the veins lower. Like that's how your arrow flies when you don't have the right FOC
Mhm.
and you got more weight in the back.
Mhm.
Versus when you have all the weight up front, then your vein and at a distance like that.
And what would cause that would be a lighted knock with a battery, a heavy
Yeah,
arrow wrap, 4 veins or 6 veins that are heavier on top of that. So now you have a lot of weight in the back. You have a wrap that goes 6 inches up the spine. That's going to be, it's going to be heavier. You're running 4 veins to 6 veins, which are going to be more grains per inch, and then also a 10 to 15 grain lighted knock. I don't know the exact weights, but that's just more
uh,
extra weight.
really anything lighted, like just because I've been looking into them because I might try to run some for deer season
Mhm.
for when I come back for whitetail. I mean, even like the halo, the knock on, like the knock, not the knock on, but like the your basic ones are all like 20 to 25.
Okay, yeah. So there you go. And if
It,
you're
it's
only running just a basic copper or aluminum, insert with no collar, and you're running 100 grain broadhead. I mean, do you have more weight on the back end or do you have more weight on the
yeah.
front? Or is it like a 70-30 or 50-50 or 60-40? It's like
That's where I think people
barely.
really need to like dive in. I like diving into understanding FOC and playing with it. Like I think if you go to the shop and just let the shop build your arrows for you, dude, you're gonna get like an 18 grain aluminum insert in the front, and that's it. And then you're gonna have a 100 grain tip, and you're gonna have mate like it
You
just
need to go to a knowledgeable shop and really they need to break down what your plan is, what your yardage, plan is for what animals you're going after. Do you want an all around arrow? Do you want something just for specific species? What is your practical yardage you're trying to get to? What is your limits on what you're actually going to shoot? If you're just hunting hogs over 20, 30 yard shot, and then you want to go straight ranch fairy mode and shoot a freaking 200 grain arrow or 200 grain broadhead with a hit collar and do all this crap, like that's great and all, but like shoot that thing out to 60 yards and watch your pin gap, and also watch how
yeah.
bad that thing parachutes and how slow that arrow is going to go. um
I I have found the 15% FOC mark,
mhm.
like that, like 13 to like 16 is where I personally get
Yeah.
amazing arrow flight to where I don't think I'll have super bad parachuting. So like my arrow setup right now, I've got the Easton Sonic 6.0s. I've got the 50 grain brass breakoff insert up front with a 100 grain tip. The three AAE HPs in the back, which are 6.1 a piece, and a 28-inch arrow, and I'm at like a 430 right now. Like that, dude, it's a sweet spot. These things
How
zip,
long is your
especially
arrow?
at 28 inches. And I could go shorter too, but there's a reason why I'm not. And that's just because my best friend, so like my hunting buddy, um, we're running the same exact arrow setup. So that way, like when we're out running and gunning this year on state land and doing our thing, if somehow I break all of my arrows or he somehow breaks all of his, or maybe his bow drops and it's just like, dude, I don't know if you should shoot your arrows. I can go, here you go. You're back in the fight. You can still shoot.
Yeah. which is
So
which is really good. A lot of people don't understand that. Which, I mean, bring extra arrows. That's great, but sometimes you don't have time to go back to the truck, and really
yeah,
that's worst case scenario. That's just like bringing an extra release or extra sight with you, because you want to stay in that hunt mode. It goes back to nutrition and hydration and everything to keep you on the mountain, and any type of over the counter medication to keep you going and keep you in the fight. But equipment really boils that down to it. Do you bring extra pair of boots? Do you bring extra socks? Do you bring extra
yeah,
base layers? Do you make sure you have extra rain flies? Some people even go down to bringing a whole extra bow. And that is completely, people say that's completely unnecessary, but that's actually like, that is like an ace in the hole to bring an
yeah.
whole extra rig, because dude, anything can happen. You slice your strings, you drop your bow and bend one of your cams. You knock your rest completely off, and now you don't have a rest, or it's bent, it's not
Your
flying.
D loop blows up and your bow flies 3 feet
Yeah.
out of your hands and does a triple backflip and lands on its cam like it's trying out for the Olympics.
Like you're like yours did like 4 weeks ago,
That's
3 weeks
why,
ago.
yeah, exactly
Yeah,
that
dude, it
freaking
happens, dude. And then
experience.
what do? And it's
Yeah,
great to bring an extra pair of strings with you. You have the stay filled system from Matthews, but the luxury of, let's just say, that's just not your only can of worms that you opened. It can go down to almost anything. Like what do you do? Let's say if it gets stolen for whatever reason, like that would be like the worst. But I mean, it
things
can
like that
happen.
happen, sadly enough.
What'd you say?
So that's sadly enough, things like that do happen.
People have, I mean, dude, yes, absolutely, absolutely. So it's kind of what you need to do. My arrow weight, going back to that, like I said, I run a 5 mil Easton Axis, not match grade. I need to get some match grade ones. I just was really wanting to test these out before I just dropped a bunch of cash into them,
Yep,
because I've done
that's
that.
what I did, dude. I don't shoot match. I won't get the match grades till
You're
till I
100%
get.
like,
Yep.
I mean, I just
So
don't want to invest so much money. It's
yeah,
just trying to figure it out. And I will go to the match grade as soon as I burn up these 11 that I have left. I'm going straight to the match grade. But they fly great for me. I've put some animals down, so they're
yeah,
good.
dude. You got a streak going.
So
I
the
mean,
four, like I said, the four vein, dipped, with the standard Axis knock. I don't know what my knock weighs. I probably should, but
if it's is it like the basic Easton one?
yeah, transparent
It's
one.
like 8 or 9.
Yeah,
That's
so
what.
that and then the AAE Max 26 is four of those on a 3 degree with a dip on the back end, double dip. So it might be lighter than a wrap. I'm not sure because I don't know how to measure how much dip is going on the arrow. I need to figure that out. Definitely probably should figure that out, but it's kind of hard. Like, how do you measure that? Do you weigh an arrow before you dip it, and then do some
That's what I would do.
subtraction?
Yeah,
I didn't dip them though. So, and dude, the lady who did it, the woman who did it at the bow shop, they look like amazing. Like
they do. They look
everything is
amazing.
perfect. And then it really, how much adhesive do you use on top of that? That could be just a couple grain difference, which anything under 10 grains, you're not going to see any variance in. Personally, I don't think 10 grains and over, you might just like a half an inch, quarter inch low compared to shooting shaft to shaft. And that's what we're talking about, shooting. When me and you talk about equipment, we're talking
Well,
about stacking
so
shafts and stripping fletchings. And a lot of people don't understand that tight of grouping. When you're ruining, you start with 12 to 15 arrows and you leave with 8 or 9 because you were just Robin Hooding and busting shafts.
so talking about like how low you could hit versus like certain grains being off. So at my previous of HHA USA event that I went to over the weekend in Toma, I had a arrow strip a fletching, two fletchings actually, because my bits and burgers kind of messed up, so the clamp just doesn't do well. I, for being the person I am, was like, oh, long shot, 80 yards, bedded elk. I'm gonna shoot this single fletch arrow just to prove a point. So I
It'll go
knocked
right
my
there with it. It'll go right there
oh
with it.
yeah. So and I which I for me I knew because I've shot two veins before just for fucking fun,
Yep.
and I've shot
Oh yeah.
bare shafted,
Yep.
and I knocked it, and I drew back and I aimed center because in my head at first I was not thinking about the difference in the weight and what it's gonna do at 80 yards. So I aimed center of the elk, let my shot break, and I was about 4 inches high when I went past the elk and I hit the stop in the back. And they were like that. Everyone was like, "Dude, that arrow tracked so freaking good." I was like, "Yeah." I was like,
That's called bow tunage right there. That's what
"Grabbed it."
that's the
Yeah.
term for
Shout
it.
out
Like,
to Grand Valley Sporting Goods for tuning the bow like a goddamn
dude,
beast.
and that dude, I have fletchings. If you look at my freaking arrows that I shoot now, you're gonna be like, why is there cutouts of some of the veins? Well, because some of the pointed field points like penetrated straight through the veins, and it looks like a
Yeah,
bullet went
I've
through.
got I've got some that are like cut and like missing.
So I
Some it's
snip
like
them.
I ain't.
I'll take
Yeah,
6 years and snip them. But also, I've stripped veins off, and I'm like, well, frick! Like, supposed to be a 4 vein. Now there's only 3 or 2. Um, and I still hunted with a 3 vein, 3 vein arrow that's supposed to be a 4. And dude, that thing shoots just like a bullet. It's right there with them, and that's how you know your bow is shooting
yeah.
very good at 50 yards. It's stacking up with the rest of them.
But
Uh,
yeah, so the weight variance though was 12 grains because these HPs are 6.1 a
so so
piece.
so what would you think? 30 and up would probably be. We'll probably start seeing variance. Or what are you thinking?
So I was short 12 grains on that arrow,
Mm-hmm.
and I was 4 inches high. Because then I shot it again and I held at the bottom of the elk, the
Mm-hmm.
belly of the elk, and then I hit, or no, sorry, bottom of the 8 inch circle, and I hit just above the little orange dot. It was actually closer to, it was just damn near center. And I saw a 4 inch variance of elevation.
The 4 inch
So
variance with 12 grains.
yep, I saw a 4 inch variance at 80 yards. Now, obviously, like now, if we shorten that distance up, I bet you if I walked out at the 20, I'd be like, oh, I'm a half inch high. Well, that could just be me.
Honestly, probably not, dude.
So,
That's
but still,
so
that's so
close.
fast. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. If you're shooting at 80, that you're gonna probably see half of that or maybe no change at 40.
I would like
Because
to see now with the new bow being faster.
absolutely, dude. And
Now it
so
would be cool to see what the variance would be with this single vein arrow now that I'm 12 grains shorter or lighter. Now it would be kind of cool to see how that variance grows at 80 versus what it did at 70 pounds. And
hmm.
because I'm a half inch longer on the lift than I am the phase four.
And that's so the finish out the arrow. I'm at 502, which is like
Yep.
That's a heavy arrow. I
That
was trying to
is.
keep it under 500. Usually it's 444. It's a weird number, but that's usually all where my arrows kind of fell, that 440 to 450 mark. My last batch of day sixes, which is great arrows, by the way, thick walls, great flight, very durable, hit system on them. 444 was those, and then these ones I built are 502, and I'm shooting basically a 30-inch arrow. It's like 29 and a half.
Yeah, but you see, that's the thing. You could shave off a lot of that weight
Yeah.
by cutting because you have like 5 inches of arrow that you can cut back. When
Yep.
I watch your arrows come back, I want to just take scissors and go snip.
I know, dude. I know. And that's just, and what was weird, I got those measurements from a previous bow shop. I'm not going to say who. And they were like, yep, that's your draw length, whatever. Which, I mean, I guess,
I get the reason behind it. I get the point because back in the day, inch and a half past your riser was the thing because people were putting their fingers up and catching a broadhead, or they weren't that like back in the day they were shooting these gigantic 2 inch broadheads, fixed blade broadheads, so they weren't clearing the riser.
dude, I'm okay with it because so let's say if I were to change my draw length, go back just a little bit for whatever which reason, because I do have a different release where I'm playing around with different stuff. I can kind of run those same arrows. So I'm cool with it. Personally, I don't see too big of a shot variance. Like I'm not my equipment's running like a top. So I
Yeah.
mean my next batch of arrows, when I get down to under a half a dozen, I'll go grab some different ones. I might just mess with that to kind of shave down some grains per inch, to kind of lighten up my arrow. But 502 is cool with me. I am running a uh, a 20 grain, 20 25 grain stainless steel hit system from Easton, and then the hidden insert system. So I have a little bit more oomph on the front and only run a 100 grain broadhead. I think 502 is good. My bow is shooting 70, I think 70 pounds, 85% lit off, or might be 75. I think it's 70 and 85. And then I have a 29 and a half inch draw. So my arrow's probably sitting over 30, which is long, but also I'm a fucking big dude. I'm 6'2, I have a long wingspan. So it works for me. I mean, you've seen my arrow flight, you've seen my bow shoot. It shoots fast. I'm probably
Yeah,
not
I mean, yeah, you still cover ground even with a 502 arrow.
like, and there's not a lot of parachuting either. I mean, we
No,
we, we talked that shot, that 100-yard freaking Sasquatch shot. I think it was 100, right?
yeah,
Like,
it was 101.2. I
like
don't know why I can remember that like
my
that, but
arrow art, just like everybody else's, I was probably shooting lighter. I mean, it's not
yeah,
like it's getting there fast. I mean, it's covering ground. The flight's great on it. I'll tinker more with it. I'm kind of getting into the danger zone of season coming in.
right.
I have
So
I
it's like
have
if you're gonna,
other I have other shit to worry about right now
yeah,
than my arrow. Like my arrow builds, like it's just your personal opinion looking in. Would you change my setup this close to season?
I would just the only thing I would do with your setup because you're asking the guy that just bought a brand new bow 2 days ago.
But besides that, I'm talking about arrow setup, fucker.
So arrow setup, the
Yeah.
only thing I would do, and personally, the only reason why what I would do is I would just cut your arrow down. That's all I would do because
Yeah.
it's not going to change the flight so much to where it's just like, oh my gosh. But what's going to happen is like like a shorter arrow is a stiffer arrow, so your arrow's going to recover faster. So in theory, it's going to be a lot more. It's going to be more accurate being stiffer.
Yeah.
I would personally just cut your arrow down because that's all you're doing. Like that's
Yeah.
just all you're gonna walk out. You're gonna change your sight tape and then maybe
Yeah.
a left and right. But the thing is like, and like people are like, we've talked about it. It's just like, oh, heavy arrows, heavy arrows. I gotta have heavy. It's like, okay, so here's the thing. So like, I use firearms to do this because I just it's easy to talk about ballistics with firearms and then relate it to arrows. So your 6.5 Creedmoor is one of the most like thought like everyone's like, oh, it's such a great round for long distance, but it sucks for deer hunting. You want to know why? Because it's such a fast round, it doesn't expand. It just goes through. My best friend has shot, and because he's got a 6.5, he loves it. He shot 3 deer with that thing. All those deer, and I mean, he's not a bad shot. He's like smoked them, double lunged them with a rifle and stuff. All those deer have ran 2 to 300 yards, and the blood trail is minimal
And they finally
because
expired after
and
that.
then yeah, they finally
Okay.
like we'll find them, and it's just like dude, what in the hell?
Me and
So,
Matt from Rec talked, side note, we talked about that with the whole
light
crossbow
weight.
industry
Yeah.
going so fast, shooting 500 feet per second, I believe. It's kind of a gray memory on what we talked about. I think it was 500 feet per
Yeah.
second, and
Getting up to
trying to
that.
and trying to match broadheads to that
Yeah.
speed. And I always had this thought, like, when you cut yourself with a knife and like you're working and you cut yourself, but like you feel it, but you don't see it, or maybe you don't
Yeah.
get injured from it because it's such a quick, as opposed to like a slow cut with a duller knife, it's gonna, it just how it happens, right? Um, with an arrow system, just like a bullet system, or fire or a cartridge system, shooting so fast, are you doing as much damage as having like a happy medium? And then I guess that's just kind of like a caveman question to ask, but it's like is the cut so quick, it zips through them so fast that it doesn't like do as much damage as something that's a little bit
Let's
more.
see, here's the thing with like bullet. This is where we differ with bullets and broadheads. So bullets, right? Their job is to expand and transfer kinetic energy to
Mushroom.
basically, yeah, to mass hemorrhage. Because when all that energy hits and stops and abruptly stops, it damages stuff doing that. This, if it stays like this, if this passes through the animal, I'm getting this hole, right? That's why we all want That's why we want pass throughs. Now, versus like, basically a 6 millimeter arrow, 6.5 Creedmoor, a 6.5 millimeter Easton arrow. This is a 6.0 that I have, right? That's the only size hole you're going to get when that round doesn't expand
Mhm.
because there's nothing there to catch it. Versus now, like when we look at the expandables, we've got the wings that open the expandable. So whether it goes through fast enough or not to create damage, I don't care. And this is going to be super controversial. Anyone listening, I'm sure there's going to be someone that says something. I don't care how much force my arrow transfers to the animal. I don't care how much of a thud, knockdown power, as they say. I want my arrow to go through that animal. I want this entire broadhead to go as deep and as fast through that animal. I'll tell you right now, like my buck I shot this year at 12 yards, that arrow went through him so fast. I don't think he realized what was going on because he was so focused. I watched him go walk over at 32 yards, stop, and go, "What the hell was that?" And then he fell over.
And
Right.
that
So it's like,
that was something that I guess I should have elaborated more on, was necessarily not like so sharp and fast that your equipment doesn't operate as it should, let's say an expandable, because it doesn't have enough time to like open by the time it's, is it opening on the
and
fin,
I think that's going to be on the deploying system, right?
at the rib, you have the entry rib,
Yep.
exit rib, right? And at the entry rib over here on my right hand, it it finally opens, or it opens right when it gets past that rib, as opposed to halfway through, because it's moving so fast. And that's something me and Matt talked about, was it's hard to determine when a broadhead fully opens unless you're shooting through ballistic gel, which is not
Yeah.
anywhere close to animal hide or bone. It's just a cool visual, but not density wise. Personally, I don't think. And then like when that broadhead functions and how well it functions through the cavity, but also there's too many variables of densities of organs and
Yep.
hide and then bone and then everything in between, as opposed to how fast. I kind of lost where I was going with this. How fast an arrow is traveling through an animal, to where in the sharpness of the broadhead you're shooting him with, that he doesn't feel it. He or she doesn't feel it, because when you're working and you have a sharp blade in your hand and you cut yourself, sometimes you don't notice you
You
cut
don't,
yourself.
yeah, you don't feel it until
Yeah.
afterwards,
And those
which
deer are
is,
getting pricked, they're getting prodded, they're getting stabbed, they're living in nature 24/7. So they're it's like when you get in a tattoo, in the first few minutes of your tattoo, you're like, okay, this kind of sucks. And then after a while, you're like, oh,
you're used to it.
yeah, so it's like the same thing, and they're dealing with that 24/7,
Yep.
So like
I would,
the sharpest broadhead and like the fastest your bow can shoot, I think it's like the best for anybody. But
yeah.
then you get the whole thing, it's like 500 feet per second. It's like, holy dude, that's
Well,
like,
crossbows are different because like the bolt, everything else that's on them, I just like that's like how you and Matt talked about it and stuff. It's just like the crossbow world's a whole different game. The biggest thing is like you got to have a broadhead that one isn't going to open up on you in mid-flight due to the force of like your bow, or your speed of your bow, whatever, and the drag. And you've got to have something that when it hits, it's got enough surface area to catch and open and release. So that's where like all this stuff, like I know guys that like the Muzzy Trocar hybrids that I just showed you because there is no spring lock. So they don't have an issue with it not opening. Okay, well, what happens with guys like me? I can't shoot them. They're my bow. Like I'm not saying this to brag, but like my bow is too fast. I don't trust them. I don't want to have that one time where I shoot and my arrow opens up. And if I do take a 50-yard shot or a 40-yard shot, or say I take him out to Nebraska and I've taken a 60, 70, 80-yard shot on a mule deer, I don't want my arrow to all of a sudden go, nah, I'm going to bank left and then bank left, maybe wounded. I watched a YouTube video the other day. Guy, like, this is where I would never want this to happen. So I don't trust it for my equipment. But it was like, and I think he was shooting a fixed blade, but he like shoots and he like shoots the deer in the neck. And he took a poke. It's just like, well, that one shows me right there that you probably shouldn't have taken that shot.
It
But
could have been
like,
a lot, that probably
there,
the baseline, but also, did he could have just torqued the hell out of
right.
that bow. I
And
mean, that's
earlier in the video, he blamed his quiver for missing a shot because his quiver was loose.
mm,
So he blamed his quiver for his for being loose for possibly the reason why he missed.
where you punched your trigger like Mike Tyson. But
So,
well,
yeah, that too. So like for me, it's like I don't like, and like that's what concerns me about having broadheads that don't have any like type of like lock or spring retention because like man, like I know my bow is moving. I'm a speed freak. I like to shoot fast
yeah,
and shoot light because as long as my broadhead goes in, it's going to cut the way the blades are designed, especially with fixed blades. You're gonna always get that cut, so something's gonna happen. You're gonna create some issues, and if that goes through the lungs, I've already seen it happen. How fast it went through 12 yards. That buck was walking too. So buck was walking, and I shot through two ribs with that broadhead through that buck at 12 yards, broke both ribs. It went through him. He ran and he stopped and he started looking around like, what the hell just happened? What's going on? And then he started doing that like the I can't breathe jiggle and then fell over. I got it on camera. I'll send it to you because I had time after I shot. I watched him. I thought I hit back, and because when he stopped, I'm like, oh, I hit him in the guts. No, and then I started like I could hear him like coughing and like you could hear like him trying to get air. And so I grabbed my phone. And I started recording it so I can send that video to you too. Watching him to go down. He dropped 32 yards away from me.
mm.
Then you have to track
And
him.
there is arteries that go back there, connect everything. If you hit one of those arteries, dude,
Mm-hmm.
it's lights out. Like it's like,
I mean,
but
you could get lucky and hit something in the hind quarter where it bleeds out. It can happen, but like I don't want
you don't want to bank on that.
yeah, I don't want to bank on getting lucky. I want to bank on
Yeah,
knowing that
I
I
agree.
can cheat that.
And that's why it's key for anybody getting into bow hunting. You have until August, like 1st, to go get a new setup if you're into bow hunting. And I hate to break it to you, I want to see all the new bow hunters get in. I want to see new guys in the woods. I want to keep this thing going for as long as possible so nobody can take it away from us as hunters. You have until August 1st. And if you don't get your bow by August 1st to practice for 30 days straight and cram in 6 months of practice in 30 days, which is possible, people can hyper learn and as much as they can. It's great what we have on the internet now to learn. But if you don't do it, you're just doing injustice to yourself to potentially
Wound an
make
animal.
mistakes and wound an animal. And that's just not, it's going to take you years to learn and master everything. And you're never going to master bow hunting. I don't give a fuck what anybody says, but
No. Yeah.
you will, always learn and always adapt and always tinker with stuff. And if you don't get in there now, you have 15 days to do it until August 1st to practice those 30 days until some seasons open in September, or maybe even go in October or November. Skip a year with a bow. Take your rifle out, take your muzzleloader out. If you have a crossbow, take your crossbow out. Whatever, do what you need to do to get in the woods to continue hunting, but don't rush it and want to be the superstar with a bow because you want to bow hunt and wound animals or potentially do things that you wouldn't feel comfortable doing in any other type of hobby by just rushing it.
Yeah, and that's like the thing about it. It's like why like one of the biggest reasons why I love archery so much um is that it will humble your ass really quick. Whether you just target shoot like I wouldn't consider myself just a bow hunter. I would consider myself an archer with how much I shoot and for like where I'm at with it in my life. And I think you're the same. Like, I'm an archery guy. I love to shoot my bow. I like to just be doing the do. So it's like for me, I would you, in August 1st, like if you're doing out west stuff, you know, really like there's hunts that start in August. So it's like if you're doing hunts like and you don't shoot a lot, like maybe you're just the guy that just shoots for season and stuff, you you better have some time behind your bow. Like I don't think most dudes that do bow hunt honestly could. I don't know. I feel like your average bow hunter shouldn't even be. I think he should be given more than a month. I know a lot of guys that are
Yeah.
hardcore, these hardcore
I think
hunters.
minimum though, like you need like, and I'm talking, you have to be a hyper learner and freaking cram, and it needs to be not a hobby, but at that point a lifestyle. And I hate
Yeah,
to break it to you, it's going to be as soon as you pick up a bow. If it gets into your blood, dude, you will be a bow hunter for life. It is so freaking rewarding. Um,
yeah.
but I agree with you though. I do think you need way more time than that. It's
The
it's
and the problem is that it's just it's laziness, man. So many people just oh, back in the old days we just slapped it on there and went. That's not.
I
Nope.
know guys now, dude, they brag about it. They're literally like, I watched a dude, he made a reel. It was last season actually. It wasn't recent, it was last season. I'll never forget this because it was embedded into my my negativity bank, which anyways, uh he opened up his bow case and he's like, it's like September it's like August 15th. And he's like finally getting this old girl out for Kentucky archery coming in the 1st of September. Uh, I don't need to shoot every day, and I'll show you guys why. He shoots, he like perfect shot on this little orange dot on his bag target. He's like, I don't need to shoot practice because I'm too busy chasing big bucks in the woods and getting them ready to shoot. You guys shoot your. He said under the lines that you guys shoot your bows too much, and I was like, in my head, I was like, motherfucker, I hope you gut shot a deer just because you're so overly cocky of like, you don't have to practice with your equipment because you're too busy putting food plots out and doing all this stuff to take a 20, 30 yard shot with a deer. It's like, that shit was like, that's just, you don't teach people that. If you're
And
on a
that's
platform with thousands of followers like you have, like, that's not what you want to sell
I feel like I know
at
who
your
you're
lemonade
talking
stand.
about.
And I was like, what the heck? Like, that's not. So as a new bow hunter, don't take that advice. Shoot your bow every day and you will ultimately become a better archer, and you really will. And guess what? You can make time to do all of those other things. And on top of it, if you got 30 minutes to sit on TikTok, sit on YouTube,
You got
sit
30
on a
minutes to shoot your
podcast
bow.
and listen to our freaking podcast right now, I'm telling you, turn off our podcast, go outside, and if this is your only 30 minutes of the day, shoot your bow. And you will have other time to listen to the podcast, and you will have time driving to the hunting spots later this fall. You will have time and camp when you have a little bit of internet before you close your eyes to listen to this podcast. You won't have time to pick your bow back up and put 30 to 50 arrows a day downrange. You cannot make that back up. And that's
No, and
just,
that's so many people just and sadly enough, I know a lot of guys like that personally that are just like, yeah, why are you bringing a target with you? Aren't you going hunting? I'm like, well, yeah, but I got to shoot my stuff when I get out there.
yep.
Oh, I just shoot my bow.
That's one of the first things I do when I get camp set up. I have
It's like,
my travel target with me. It's a small McKinsey foam target, stack foam target. It packs great. It's probably only 24, 30 inches tall and wide, and about 8 inches deep. I can shoot on all the sides. It packs really well, and I take that wherever I go with me now because that's the target. Whenever I get there, I shoot, and you'll be surprised more times than not when I take my dovetail sight off. I have to do some adjusting with my sight, whether going forward or back, because I'm hitting, a third of an inch or a half an inch, high or low. And I want to make sure I'm shooting money, and
yeah.
that just makes me feel a lot better when that deer does come out, that I know I don't have to cheat myself a yard or give myself a yard,
And see,
to
tack is where you get to be the guy that shows up with a sight tape at 2:30 in the morning and just sends it on the course. That's where you do stuff like that.
Yep.
That stuff in the woods, no,
No, no,
that's
you
just not.
shouldn't. And it's all fun and games. I love tack. I'll never miss another tack
Oh,
now.
I'm excited for the Snow River tack. It'll be should be fun. That's well, and that's why I pulled the trigger on the lift when I did.
Mhm.
Like it's still July. I shoot a lot. I'll be dialed with my sight and system
I
again.
mean, the only thing
I'm
you
out.
really changed was the weight, the function of the bow, and the axle to axle. So I mean, basically everything. So you should be
Yeah,
you should be
yeah.
good. No, no,
Everything about the bow
dude,
besides the way it
I'm rooting
feels.
for you. I think you will. I mean, you shoot enough to where you can get a new bow. It's not changing the foundation of archery. You know how to fix stuff on the fly. You know how to tinker with stuff. You know how to move stuff to make it the right choice. So that's not anything.
But
I
you
have any
know,
doubts.
tack will be a good like all right, how's the setup running? So that's like a big thing for me. It's like I'll be able to go to tack. I'll really be able to see how I perform with it. I mean, I can shoot out to 115 in my backyard, and I just put my sight tape on while we were talking. So now I'm curious to see what I can clear actually
Dude,
on my. Are
I'll
you ready for this? Because I don't think I'm ready for this.
your air clearance or your vein clearance.
Yeah.
I can only still shoot where my dialed is, where my dialed sight is on my bow. I'm only still getting vein clearance out to like 109 on my second pin. So I don't know. I'm frustrated about it because I thought I was going to get 40 yards, not an extra 20 or 30, or 50 yards. I mean, not like 20, going barely 30, and it's getting pretty close where I don't feel comfortable shooting past 110, whatever it is. But I'll see. I mean, if I'm really having to take over a 90-yard shot at an animal, I'm I'm desperate because I don't see why I
So
can't bump up 20 more yards. So I don't.
so right now with my cock vein up in the forward position, my top pin clears 115, 114 for my top pin.
Yeah.
And then my bottom pin is just about 130. If I rotate it down, which I might come into issues of hitting the rest, right about there. Top pin's at like 129, bottom pin's at like 143.
And I might cheat my dovetail in one more notch, and I think that might give me the extra 10 to 20 yards that I need to be able to shoot to max that sight tape all the way out. I think it only goes to 100, and then anything past or 100, and yeah, I think 100, and then anything after that, you're kind of making your own adjustments. So I have to
Yeah.
I have to see. I mean, I might print some, but like I said, it's like all the animals I'm hunting so far this year, they're going to be heavy timber shots. If I wanted to shoot out to 120, dude, I don't even think I could even get a 120-yard shot. I mean, hunting such heavy timber, like it's just not possible. Like hunting
Yeah,
up north in Michigan for bear, it's so thick up there, and then Kentucky whitetail, it's going to be again heavy timber. I'm not shooting across a field or food plot, so
yeah. And I mean for me, like Nebraska, I mean, I'll be that's definitely where like I'll have my longer shots and whitetail. I'm not really shooting far on those because of how jumpy whitetail are. If you're listening to this and you haven't and you're thinking to yourself, oh, well, what's the difference? Mule deer are dumb. Mule deer look dopey and they are dopey. They're the kind of deer that'll just kind of hang out and stare at you for a while. They don't spook like whitetail, so they're not as fast. If you watch like any like footage of other guys shooting them and stuff, and like you watch and you pay attention to like how the deer reacts to the arrow, they don't move on a dime like the whitetail do.
mhm.
So like you can get away with those little bit farther shots. Um, and I think and again it comes into like how far like I'll probably easily if I can. And if I have the shot, I'll probably shoot out to 80 on a mule deer if I have the shot, the conditions are right.
Yeah.
Uh, I've shot in like heavy crosswinds before with these Sonics specifically for out west. Like when it's a heavy windy day here at home, I will go shoot just so I can learn my drifts, um, and whatnot and try to gauge everything. But that just comes into the preparing myself and yeah.
What tags you got this year? Mule deer and
Mule
whitetail
deer and whitetail. Yep.
in Michigan, yeah.
Yeah.
So what about
So
that? I got that bear tag up in the UP. I've been getting all the bait ready, dude. I got tons and tons of bait. I got oats and nuts and gummies and scents and icings and everything for these bears to keep them nice and fed where they come into hyperphagia and hopefully get enough feet on the ground where I won't get too many dominant bears trying to claim it. I think it'll be good. We can't put out bait till August 11th, so I'm kind of what day's tack?
August 2nd to the 4th.
Yeah, so tack is pretty freaking close to my bear hunting area. I'm not going to give two, but I mean it's within 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. So I would have to go up there second or third to shoot tack, and then back up there the 11th, and then back up there the 17th to check the cameras and feed pile to make sure we're in the honey hole, and then have the baby due. They said the 28th, 29th. So a week before, I can't go anywhere. A week after, I'm not going to go anywhere because of clearly newborn baby, and then have to figure out sites. His tag comes in the 15th, mine comes in the 25th, and I have to somewhere squeeze in a Magnum Kentucky whitetail hunt in between those dates of September 7th.
Yeah, you got a busy season.
It's going to be a lot of driving, lot of sleepless nights, but very rewarding. That dude, that buck, you've seen that picture of that one in Kentucky. What do you
That's
think
a
of that?
big dude.
Dude,
I hope you get. I hope you get him. I hope I get a text message.
I was talking to a buddy. What do you think that buck scores when he's fully tipped out?
Ah, dude, I don't know. That it's hard because like he's still got velvet, so he looks a lot heavy. He looks super heavy.
Yeah. Well, if I do get a chance at him, he will still be in velvet because it comes in September 7th. They'll
Okay,
hold velvet till the
so
end of September.
I mean, I'd probably give him easily 150
Yeah.
plus.
I had a buddy. He was like, "Oh, it's like 120, right? 125." And
There, no,
I was like, if that's a 120, dude, I was like, I'm going off gross. Let's be real. Like everybody wants to do net deductions and all that for the non-typical, but I mean, I don't. I'm not going to submit him anywhere, so I might do gross and kind of see what he's racking at. And I mean, if he's looking at 17 points right now, six of them being Browton points. He comes out of his ears quite a bit, and he's still like halfway there. I mean, he still has quite a bit to grow, and this is the main part of how much stress he has and how much extra he can put on. But if I get him in velvet, that might inch me up a few inches just because of the the girth of velvet and just the density of it
yeah,
as opposed to that. But I don't I don't know. I was curious to get you. I was thinking for sure 150s, give or
yeah,
take. It just depends on what that drop does, and then those Browtons do, and then what his other G's do if they finish out longer. I mean, he's still knobbed out. I mean, he is knobbed out. He's not anywhere close to finishing out those points. So I'm really curious to see what this next 2 months does to him. I'm uh I was just getting your insight on it because I had a few buddies. One guy for sure that was like he scored him. He was like, oh, it's probably gonna be like 120, 130. And I was like, fuck, I don't I have a 140 something in my room, and it's like not even where he's at. So I
yeah.
was
That buck's easily 150 plus.
yeah. I'm just curious getting your insight because I'm already kind of losing sleep over. I'm already putting like some type of fabricated game plan in my head of if I keep him on the nutrients, if I can keep as much pressure off of them as possible because it is private land. I own it, and then how I can get a set in there before season starts, let it marinate, let them get used to it, and then really with the wind dependent. We have a strong west wind usually that comes from that property, so it's like perfect. I mean, it comes straight out of the timber, straight to the truck, basically. So it's like that's normally the wind that comes out of there. And if I could set a saddle up there at least 25 foot, I think it'll be thick. There's vines everywhere, lots of foliage. So I think dude, I don't know, man. I'm excited about him, but there is three other bucks that were bigger than him last year, and I haven't gotten them yet on camera, and I think they got shot during rifle. Personally, because there's a lot of
Possibility.
rifle hunters. There's a lot of rifle hunters out there. I mean, it's every man's game for late season deer. You know, whether it's a freaking Honda Pilot or a guy with a spotlight or the good old boy that sits in an elevated blind over 900 acres of crop with a rifle. So I was just curious getting your thoughts on that. And on all the guys listening, I'll post more pictures of them, but has me losing some sleep already. And then I just did some scouting 2 days ago. I got a new quad for bear hunting because you're not moving any feed without a quad, dude. It's miserable. And I took that out and I found a spot on public land that I think might hold a unicorn of the Michigan deer hunting community. It's in between two swamps, bunch of feed trees around. There's acorns all over the place where they just didn't get fully ate or just scraps of them, and it's just good greens, good forbs, and good nut trees. It's in between two swamps. What do you think? Like, we're gonna get on the Michigan deer hunting subject. Where do you think the magnums are hiding in Michigan?
Oh, swamps easily. But
You think
here's the thing. So I think we're just about at 2 hours.
we are? That's all. I'm kind of yeah.
So, um, with my schedule on a Friday, did we want to save this for a part two
I think we should. I think we
and then
should.
come back and we'll do like a whole episode on, like Michigan hunting and stuff?
I think we should. We'll leave it on that cliff note because, dude, there's some magnums in this state, and everybody says it's the worst state for deer hunting. I've seen some crazy big genetics in this state, but they're just hard to come by in public.
Yeah.
So we'll leave that. I do
We'll
want to
we'll
say,
leave it we'll leave it on that and then
yeah,
we'll come back to it and then we'll do another episode.
yeah. Well, Joe, I really do appreciate your time. You just got off of work. You're probably about to get some shut eye. Um, I appreciate you stopping and
Yeah, dude.
doing this podcast for me. I
Happy to
think
be
it's
on.
episode 4, I think. So we're just getting kicked off. I'm looking for other guests as well. If you have some interesting topics, maybe some experiences, some light you want to shed into the hunting industry for any new hunters, any any educated hunters, any guys who have been in it for a while, just kind of drop me a DM or email me. And you can find him at Rested Refit Outdoors. You'll see him on my Instagram. I always post his stuff. And again, Joe, thank you for coming by. And
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me on. I'll have to have you on when I start mine up.
yeah, please do, dude. We'll talk everybody's ear off and we'll give them a good
Oh
listen.
yeah.
Rides to work and rides to camp. So,
Oh yeah.
well, I'll talk to you later, man. I'll shoot
All
you a
right, dude.
message here in a little bit.
All right. Thanks, man.